not in power issue. It's a constitutional crisis. The electoral democracies are not thrown with a bang. The fascists don't enter with a bang and a dhol nagada. They dismantle the whole institutions, the very institutions, the system of elections that are meant to uphold the democracy, and that's what's happening here. This here poses a question of credibility of election process. The the constitution who gives us the right of one man, one food, the universal adult franchise, and also very scaringly and very responsibly, I'm saying the legitimacy of the people who have been elected. It's not just about a Telangana government, a Karnataka government, or a Himachal government. It actually poses legitimacy of Narendra Modi ji in power today, because it was not just Rahul Gandhi. This Poonam Agarwal journalist has been raising issues with election commissions after 2024. She found a mismatch between voter list and voter count in 140 constituencies, giving a direct advantage to BJP in 79 states. So you just talked about, you mentioned Sir in your opening comment, and Sir has throwing up many gems. I have the list of Ranjan Paswan, Chanchal Paswan, Manju Devi, Fikri Devi, Bolu Ram, yesterday who came out in India Today is an investigative story, who were written as dead in the draft electoral rolls, but they came out together. This reminds me of Shahzad Ahmed's lines, Hazaro chehre hain par aadmi gayab. 130 lakh, 3 lakh people have zero as their house numbers. We have Minta Devi. You saw the protest with Minta Devi with an age of 124. May she live to 150 years, but this is what draft electoral rolls. And look at the Makkari of Election Commission. I use the Makkari word because they go on to Supreme Court and say that we are not liable to give details and give, the epic numbers, details and everything, granular details of the 65 lakh people who have been deleted. Why? Is electoral rolls your personal property? It's a property of electoral democracy, and you are very much liable to give. And the day Rahul Gandhi took out his press conference, they went on to change the format of those machine-readable electoral draft to a physical scanned copies, which makes it, quite a very difficult task to decipher a name. And now, this morning, there was a search bar over the draft electoral rolls. If I wanted to see if I am a voter, I'm not in a voter in Bihar. If I wanted to see if I'm a voter in some say ABC constituency of Patna, is my name there in draft electoral rolls or not? The search bar has been removed. What are you there to hide? It shows that you are systematically sitting in the lap of those in power, and you are systematically conducting a massive
Okay, all right, Mr. Chandra.
That's what this whole movement is about.
The attack on the election commission, they obviously have a lot to answer for.
Yeah, Vinny ji, thanks for having me on your iconic show. And you asked a burning question. Fact of the matter is this: Congress is not losing credibility, it has already lost credibility. There is a very famous saying, सियासत में है सयाद कितना सयाना, कौवे पर नजर है मगर बुलबुल है निशाना. I am going to tell you the real reason of all this, what Congress is doing. It is basically targeted at the Bihar elections. Rahul Gandhi is not clever, he is over clever. Well, the fact of the matter is this, that they are, casting aspersions on our very good electoral body, the Election Commission. And what is going to happen is, if Congress loses which they are going to lose, very badly, they are going to be routed in Bihar. So they will say, yes, we had told you, and all these, voters deleted, etc. And if they win, they'll say, no, there's no chance of winning, but I'm just giving you an example. They'll say, yes, we made a noise, so the Election Commission, didn't delete the names. I would like to ask Rahul Gandhi, why is he not signing an affidavit, number one, if he's so sure of his facts? Number two, he said one lady called Shakun Rani of Mahadevpura in Karnataka, she has voted twice. This lady came on record in public and said, I have only voted once. Thirdly, what has happened is this, under our iconic Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, who has turned out to be the best Prime Minister the country has ever seen or will ever see, that he has made BJP into a lean, mean fighting machine. And BJP is a winner because Mr. Modi is a winner. And Congress is losing. It is a fight between a rabbit called Rahul Gandhi and a tiger called Mr. Narendra Modi. And in this larger context, Vinny ji, I like to say 15th August is not very far. Immediately a meeting of Union Cabinet should be called with a single line, that we hereby, with all consent, award the Bharat Ratna to Mr. Modi to be presented to him on the evening of 15th August. He will be addressing the country, single line motion, he will be addressing the country in the morning of 15th August. And I would also like to say that if you are so sure of your facts, why are you not giving an affidavit? And under the Indian Penal Code, if you give a false affidavit on oath, you can go to jail. Similarly, if election commission people are found to be tampering, they can go to jail. दूध का दूध, पानी का पानी हो जाएगा. Or this is a mountain out of Congress is making a mountain out of a molehill. खोदा पहाड़ निकली चूहिया वो भी मरी हुई. And you see, you cannot go on blaming BJP for Congress's losses. Let Congress, if they are saying that the voter fraud is being committed, then let us have re-elections in Karnataka, in Himachal, and in Telangana, and you will see what happens. So you see, you can go on blaming. You blame yourself for defeat. And also, Vinitji, some very important point. They are talking about deletions. Mrs. Indira Gandhi converted the whole country into a jail while imposing emergency. So what are you talking? She was, ousted by a puny judge of the High Court. Her elections were cancelled, and she declared emergency. She, also, prevailed over the judiciary. Only one judge, H.R. Khanna, stood up to her. So I would like to say, and also in 1984, genocide was conducted against our, Sadar brothers, mothers, sisters, fathers. And till today, nobody has been brought to book. So let us, let Congress introspect. It is a losing party. It's a lost party. And today, Mr. Modi is not a politician. He is the #1 statesman of the world, where people, look up to him for advice.
All right, fair enough. At least you got Nikhil Jain smiling. In fact, Nikhil, I was about to come to you. How do you respond to this poetic validation of what the BJP is doing by Mr. Sandeep Chandra?
So there are a lot of points were made earlier by Dr. Tripathi, so I'm not going to reiterate them, but I'm going to endorse every single one of them. But I just want to respond to the statements made by Dr. Tyagi and Mr. Chandra earlier that have not been responded to. First of all, the way the BJP is looking at it in such a trivial manner is very evident by the fact that the BJP spokesperson on the debate starts the debate by talking about a copy of an ordinance being torn 12 years ago. Right now, we are talking about the very democratic fabric of this country being torn. But he doesn't really have answers to that. And let me put out an analogy to your viewers. Suppose मेरे घर में चोरी होती और चोरी में फ्रिज चला जाता है, टीवी चला जाता है, सोफा चला जाता है. मैं अपने चौकीदार को बुला के पूछता हूँ कि चोरी कैसे हुई, और बगल से चाय वाला आके बोलने लगता है कहाँ चोरी हुई, कौन सी चोरी हुई, देखो एसी लगा हुआ है, देखो एक फ्रिज लगा हुआ है, कैसी चोरी हुई. Would I not suspect the chowkidar and the chai wala are in collusion with each other? And this is exactly the point that the entire opposition is trying to make right now. The questions are being raised of the Election Commission of India. It should be the Election Commission of India putting out a press release, official press release, not something through sources. It should be the Election Commission of India holding a press conference. They, as the protector and custodian of electoral democracy in the country, should be ordering an immediate investigation into all these facts that the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha have brought forth. But what is happening? They are trying to attack an individual. They are trying to attack opposition parties, and the ruling party very conveniently is supporting the Election Commission of India. Why can't the BJP come on board with the Congress and all the other opposition parties and say, yes, this looks like a big problem and we need to fix it? Neither of us wants to win elections through unfair electoral rules. Today, the BJP might be winning. Tomorrow, the Congress might be winning this way. But this is not how we planned our electoral democracy. But they do not have answers to that. They just want to attack Rahul Gandhi at a personal level. They want to attack opposition leaders at a personal level. Let's not forget what happened yesterday. 300 members of parliament were detained by the Delhi police and Central Armed Police Forces. Why? Because they were taking out a peaceful protest from the parliament to the Election Commission office, demanding answers on something very credible that has been put out. My friends from the BJP are saying, oh, Rahul Gandhi has no proof. What more proof do you want, my friends? He's put out so many things in the public domain. He's made it point by point clear, number by number clear, yet you are asking for more proof. And you, again, time and again, this point is raised. Why does Rahul Gandhi not give it on affidavit? Please tell me the provision of law that asks Rahul Gandhi to give this on affidavit. The Election Commission and some people, sources of the Election Commission, talk about Rule 20 of the Conduct of Election Rules 1960. That is for problems in the draft electoral roll. We are not talking about the draft electoral roll. We are talking about some fudging that happened in an election that already happened over a year ago. Rule 20B does not apply. There is no provision in law for the Election Commission to be asking Rahul Gandhi
30.
to submit anything in affidavit. This is as penal as me watching a murder, then going to a police station and saying, "Sir, I have watched the murder. Please investigate into it." And the policeman asking, "Come, write, please write this on affidavit. Please prove who committed the murder. Please prove how the murder was committed, and only then will I lodge an FIR." Why is the Election Commission not acting on its own? The proof of the pudding lies in the fact that, the way they're dealing with the entire situation, it just smells and smells and smells of malice and connivance with the BJP to give them an unfair advantage in the entire
Okay, let's get a
electoral
response
process.
from Mr. Tyagi. Mr. Tyagi, do you think that the Election Commission perhaps needs to put out a press release, do a lot more? I don't want to use this word. Do they need to exonerate themselves of anything?
First of all, Vineet, I am not the representative for the Election Commission. We are only trying to bring some sanity into the system because Rahul Gandhi is accusing every possible institution.
Well, the opposition is saying that the ruling party and the Election Commission are hand in glove, sir. That's why that question.
I mean, if they say something, you think it's a cardinal truth? I mean, is it a universal truth? They can
So it's
say
a
anything.
charge. So it's a charge
But
you're supposed to respond to.
But no, what I'm trying to say is that, not forget about Election Commission. I mean, if you look at the history, the electronic voting machine, they have been suspecting that electronic voting machine is rigged. And it has been amply demonstrated not only by Election Commission, by number of agencies, that election voting machine works robustly. And a demonstration happened in London where Kapil Sibal was himself there. What happened? They could not find out. And in Supreme Court also, they could not establish that EVM is hacked. So their credibility has to be seen in the historical context. Now, every time they want either JPC, they want a special parliamentary session, they will come out with some kinds of lame excuses because they've run out of the political fodder completely. They stand decimated. And maybe Robert Vadra case is also on the horizon, so they're trying to use some diversionary tactics. So these people are basically trying to find I'm just asking a hypothetical sense. Let us not make it a legal argument. What is the hesitancy by Mr. Rahul Gandhi not to submit all his claims? First of all, he says that they are not optically readable data. So they are resorting to the data which is manually given to them. Now, if that is not the conclusive evidence, then they can only come out with the conclusive evidence when it is optically given data. So why can't, if कहते हैं सच बढ़े या घटे तो सच नहीं रहता और झूठ की कोई इंतहा नहीं, तो why not Rahul Gandhi give affidavit to Election Commission? You think if it is substantiated, nothing will happen.
Quick
But if it is
response from
not
Dr. Pooja
substantiated,
Tripathi.
just
We have a
buying the
paucity of
time.
time. Dr. Pooja Tripathi, why can't Rahul Gandhi give an affidavit to the Election Commission? Quickly, please, 30 seconds.
First, ask your question: where do you get these gems of political analysts like Dr. Chandra? You run an online competition. Who is the biggest Modi fanboy? Give him Bharat Ratna and everything. Nobody. None of the BJP spokesperson, none of your political analysts answered me directly. They've gone across emergency, genocide, EVM, everything, but they are not answering me a simple question about the point raised about the systemic pathology that has been seen in electoral road. That's what Rahul Gandhi gave point by point, rebuttal by rebuttal, and there will be lots of noise about him signing an affidavit. Let me tell you, Election Commission quoting the Rule 17B of Representation of People's Act, that rule says that if you want to make a complaint, you have to make it within 30 days. That rule itself is null and void. And if somebody has to make a complaint, and nowhere it does says that you need an affidavit, somebody needs an oath and affidavit. It should have been there that Election Commission should have taken suo motu cognizance and should have started correctional activity, but no, Election Commission withdrawal, taunt, obfuscate, and run away from this.
Quickly. All right, quickly. Mr. Chandra, 15 seconds. Then
You
we go to
see,
Nikhil.
Viniji, what has happened is this. Congress has got no answer to Mr. Modi. And I would like to say today, Mr. Modi is the only person in the country and on the planet who embodies the qualities of Mahatma Gandhi and Sardar Patel. Mahatma Gandhi, because today most people of India look up to him as a father figure, and as Sardar Patel because he's the new Iron Man of India.
Okay, all right. Nikhil, quickly, 30 seconds. Can't hear you.
Okay, about what are Dr. Tyagi and Mr. Chandra talking about? Why are we talking about EVMs? EVMs, the book was written by a BJP's MP in 2010 that they are flawed, and we're not talking about EVMs right now. We are talking about the electoral rolls. Why are we talking about 1984 emergency?
Because
And
part of
there's a
history.
wonderful comment by a BJP spokesperson saying, "Oh, the opposition wants a JPC. They want a discussion in the parliament." Sir, that is what the parliament is for. The parliament is to discuss things. The opposition.
No,
and the
I'm only
government
saying
do that.
when.
Don't run it
I'm
like
only saying when agenda is fixed up for certain subject, you divert
do
into
that.
some
All
other
right,
subject.
fair enough, fair enough.
So
We've
you
run
are
out of
trying
time.
to divert
Appreciate
the
everybody
debate
who
to
joined
happen.
us. We have to move on now. So breaking news coming in, the Supreme Court has now barred authorities from taking coercive action against people who own 10 plus year old petrol and 15 plus year old vehicles, diesel vehicles that is. And this comes after Delhi's attempt at a blanket ban fell apart in the State Assembly earlier this year. Sambhav Sharma, my colleague, is joining us on the broadcast to give us more details about this. Sambhav, if you're there with us.
Yes, absolutely. And this matter was before Chief Justice of India, B.R. Gavai, and Justice A.V. Chandran and N.V. Anjaria. Three-judge bench has passed this particular order today afternoon and directed that no coercive action be taken against the owners of the diesel vehicles older than 10 years and petrol vehicles older than 15 years in Delhi. This matter was listed before the three-judge bench, and this particular order has been passed by the bench. And the order states that a notice has been issued, returnable in four weeks. I mean, a notice has been issued to the Delhi government. And in the meantime, no coercive action. Steps to
Sambhav,
be
stay
taken
with us.
against
In
the
fact,
own-
some more breaking news coming in. Government officials have reported the killing of 9 Pakistani soldiers in a Balochistan attack. Earlier, the US had named the Balochistan Liberation Army, which had claimed responsibility for the suicide attacks in 2024 near Karachi airport, as a foreign terrorist organization. Human rights activist Midyar Baloch has said that the Baloch are not terrorists, but a nation that has endured terrorism. Arzu, my colleague, is with us on the broadcast to give us more details about this. Arzu, this is a setback for the BLA, a group of people who've been fighting against the atrocities of the Pakistani military and ISI. Arzu, if you're there with us.
Well, yes, Vineet, one of the deadliest recent strikes on the Pakistan's security forces. 9 soldiers of the Pakistan army, including a captain, were killed when suspected Baloch separatists ambushed military vehicles in the district of Balochistan. Also, the attack unfolded near the Green Chalk in the Bastima area on Monday, as armed assailants opened fire on the military police van and a quick response force unit moving through the region. Also, according to the local security officials, the militants launched a coordinated assault, catching the convoy off guard, and in the ensuring exchange of fire, at least 5 civilians and 4 other soldiers sustained injuries. They were rushed to the nearby medical facilities under the heavy security. The attackers reportedly fled into the rugged mountainous terrain and taking advantage of the difficult geography that has long hindered security operations in the province.
All right. Arzu,
Yes,
appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. We take a short break now. We'll be back.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज NewsX का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
I grew up in a household of strong women, so I just do what they tell me. It's very simple.
कि मैंने हिम्मत करी, मैंने कहा मुझे अगर कोई मौका मिलेगा मैं पीछे नहीं हटूंगी, क्योंकि मौके बार बार नहीं आते।
हमारा देश में दुर्भाग्य है कि महिलाओं का साथ महिलाएं ही नहीं देती हैं।
मैंने 5,000 वॉलेट से स्टार्ट की थी, आज 5 लाख 6 लाख मेरे हर वक्त वॉलेट में रहते हैं।
When a woman is surrounded by a family that motivates you to be your best and to be financially independent.
It's just you are beautiful and stunning, and you like it's a pleasure to just see you.
Being on Netflix in 192 countries worldwide, it is, I mean, that kind of exposure is staggering.
Saying that if a city is safe for a girl, making our city safe for everybody, that we're all a part of this.
Media and cinema contributes to our concept of popular history.
Being validated, of course, makes you feel great for that moment.
90% of the girls go for the top 10% of men. It's evolution. Everything men do is to impress women.
I feel the woman is Shakti. That's empowerment.
From last 10-15 years, we are actually re-educating ourselves.
Even the defense sector of our country understands that power is women.
Find our own voices, to find our own stories and to tell it ourselves.
Women voted in higher number than men, and I think they make better decisions than most men.
Women voters think differently, they vote differently, they make their own choices differently.
The NewsX Shakti Award for Excellence in Empowering Women, Neha Dhupia.
To Radhika Bharatramji. Shalini Pasi.
Professor Himani Sood.
To Ritu Berry.
Shireen Man.
Ms. Ishi Khosla. Congratulations, Deepika ji. Dr. Alkanchri Dahar.
Urfi Javed. Dr. Tanya Bakshi Rohadki.
Sunny Leone.
Kamakshi Khanna. Ms. Pooja Ellingbam.
Malvika Mohan. Nikita Luthar. Rima Das.
Purnima Devi Burman.
Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet. US President Donald Trump has signed an order to extend talks with China on trade by 90 days while he imposes 50% tariff on India. The order was signed right before the deadline was about to expire, and Washington and Beijing had slapped escalating tariffs on each other's exports in April, reaching prohibitive triple-digit levels. But both sides reached an agreement to temporarily lower them after negotiations in Geneva, and this deadline now buys time for both countries to work out their differences. In April, US President Donald Trump increased his tariffs on Chinese goods to 145%. China then imposed retaliatory duties of 125% on imports from the United States. The main reason for Trump to do so is said to be China's control of 90% of global processing of rare earth materials, whereas a negotiation with India is still awaited after he cited the reason for increase in tariff to be its oil trade with Russia. He stated, and I quote, "India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchased, selling it on the in the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will be substantially raising the tariff paid by India to the United States." Let's talk about this and the veracity of some of these claims by Donald Trump. Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal, former diplomat, with us on the show. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, also joins us. Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist, with us on the program as well. And last but by no means the least, Mr. Shrikant Kondapalli, professor of Chinese at JNU, is joining us on the broadcast as well. Professor Nalapat, I'll begin with you. Well, you know, if you want to have a ray of hope, let's also look at what happened between the Americans and the Chinese in the last few months. There was an exchange of inane amounts of tariffs slapped on each other. You know, there were negotiations that happened in Geneva, as I just read out in my monologue, and now they've come to a situation where there could be some sense prevailing. Is this the trajectory that the Indo-American negotiations are also headed for, if we go by that hope? Professor Nalapat.
Look, let me be a little contrarian here. And yes, it's easy to abuse President Trump. I mean, I have, you know, very frankly, I have also been flummoxed by his behavior, and I've made it very plain, both to readers of Sunday Guardian as well as to viewers of television channels. But having said that, let me point out one more fact, and that is that I mean, I've been talking to my friends in Washington who are very hardcore Republican, hardcore supporters of President Trump, Trump 2.0. First of all, 2.0 is very different from 1.0. Almost everybody who was close to him during 1.0 moved away from him in the 4 years of persecution, thinking that he's gone, he's never going to come back to power. And lo and behold, like a miracle, this President Trump comes back to power. And now you have Trump 2.0. The reality is, therefore, he basically detests those people who were with him in the first term and who deserted him during his 4 years in the wilderness when he was being, as I've written, persecuted. I mean, you can say prosecuted, but if you check my reports, I'm one of the people who basically stood by President Trump, ex-President Trump, during those 4 years, although Biden was a legally elected president. So I would like to say, and the second problem is, I'd like to flag here is, the Trump people, I mean, the new Trump people, Trump 2.0, they don't like officials at all. So the problem is that in our diplomacy, it's almost always carried out by officials. When you have think tanks, they basically reflect the official point of view. So the problem is the Trump people, they don't like officials. They like non-officials who have been sticking with them right from the beginning during the 4 years out of power, and who speak in an idiom they respect and they like. And you can argue with them, you can criticize them, but if they feel that you're one of them, that doesn't matter. They're not going to mind it at all. Whereas if they feel you're an outsider to the game, even praise is brushed aside and any criticism is taken very personally. So I would only like to be a contrarian here and say, we need to improve our game in Washington, D.C. The Trump 2.0 has a very small group of inner circle, mostly family, a few close friends, and a few people like Tulsi Gabbard, for example, R.F. Kennedy, for example, who bolted from the Democratic Party and who joined him in his years in the wilderness. And you remember Tulsi Gabbard, the day after she announced that she was against Hillary Clinton, they put her on a watch list for suspected terrorism. Tulsi Gabbard as a suspected terrorist. How much more ridiculous can you get in your persecution? So I would really like to say, and I know I'm being contrarian here, we're going to hear a lot of nasty things said about President Trump. I have said a lot about it during Trump 2.0, but I would also like to point out that I think we need to, as Americans say, up our game in Washington. And I don't want to repeat what my friends in the Trump 2.0 have been telling me about the influence of India in Washington in the small circle of people around Donald Trump. There's no point throwing cocktail parties, no point inviting hundreds of people. There are only about 3 dozen or 4 dozen people maximum at most. I think probably much less than that. Maybe we're 2 dozen, I would say, who are really hardcore believed in by Trump and his small group of advisors. So unless they're at their cocktail party, and frankly, rather than a cocktail party, a dinner party, an informal dinner party, you're in trouble in Washington. So I just want to say, Vineet, we need to do some soul searching ourselves, and we need to, as they say, up the game in Washington, because the kind of words I've heard used about our influence operations in Washington, I don't want to repeat them here, but the Chinese are very good at their game. They're spending billions of dollars. We don't need to do that. They're spending tens of billions of dollars. According to my friends, the estimate is between 20 and 30 billion dollars. And many of these fronts for China, don't even know their fronts for China. Many of them pretend to be, a second group of them pretend to be anti-Chinese, when actually they know they're working for the Chinese, for CCP. So they have spent such a lot of money. We don't have to spend that kind of money. We don't have that kind of money. But the problem is that Pakistan for a long time has figured out how Washington works, and they keep changing. Whenever the power players change, they immediately adjust to the power players. And of course, it's not Pakistan's game, it is the Chinese game. The Chinese are our opponents and adversaries, and they are the main threat to America and to us. And I can tell you, Trump people realize that, they recognize that, and therefore we have got a great story to tell, but you have to tell it to the right channel. I mean, if I've got some problem in, let's say, in my accountancy, I'm not going to talk to myself or to you. I'm going to talk to Dr. Sharath Kohli. So I think that is necessary for us again. Let's turn the searchlight on ourselves also a little bit. And of course, as far as President Trump is concerned, yes, I mean, I've been among those who have, but if you check Sunday Guardian, if you check NewsX, you'll find they have carried voices who are very critical of the persecution of Donald Trump during the 4 years out of power. Very, very critical of him. And I think those are the voices that we need to basically deploy when we talk about meeting the challenge of China in influence operations in Washington, D.C. Vineet.
Fair enough, sir. Ambassador Goel, your perspective here. Let's not forget that these are tariff numbers which will make it very hard for India to deal with the Americans at a number of levels and trades. But this could also be, a part of a chapter in the book, The Art of the Deal, which Donald Trump wrote in the 80s. Is this something which can be considered as an option rather than a finality when it comes to Donald Trump?
All right, Vineet, I'm not going to be nasty towards Trump at all, really. Trump is a good fellow, I must say. He is a good fellow because he knows his mind. The problem is that nobody else knows his mind. And therefore, whenever he does something, it remains very inexplicable to all of the others. And till we know really that we don't know what is it. If you recall, Vineet, right in the early days of Trump coming as a president, and when we were rejoicing in Delhi here saying that, oh, Trump, we know his views on China, and therefore we know that in Indo-Pacific, India's star is on the rise, etc., etc., etc. And I said even at that time that Trump is a deal maker. For Trump, if he finds that he can make a deal with China, whether it is in terms of the electrical vehicles or is it of critical minerals, something that he knows that he depends on China for and he can't do anything else. If he makes a deal with China, he will make a deal with China, and then the geopolitics of Indo-Pacific, India versus China, etc., etc., will all go for a 6. I think we depended on perceived animosity of the USA toward China rather unreasonably and in a not really calculated and reasonable manner. We should have realized that Trump will deal with any country or any person if he knows that there is something in it for him. You look at Pakistan, look at China, whatever it is. If today Trump has extended the low tariff by another 90 days, it's simply because he has not been able to find alternative supplies for the critical minerals from anywhere else. If he is able to let China overtake the American market with their electrical vehicles produced by Xiaomi, it's simply because Elon Musk is not able to produce electrical vehicles at the same price as China does. Elon Musk, when he came Dodge, Department of Government Efficiency, Ramaswamy and Elon Musk came to head the department. And where are they today? Therefore, first of all, let us understand that Trump has his own mind. His mind is that of a businessman. He will look at what we talk about Trump properties in India. What has he done? He has not invested a single dollar from his own funds. He's simply lending his brand name, Trump Properties. And he's collecting the money from his partners in India for giving them the brand name. He's making his billions that way. We need one thing that we need to understand, that Trump will turn to India again if he finds that he can do business with India which has a profit for him, or which has some advantage for him. Now, it is not now, but sooner or later, again, he will turn to India, because he will again find that there are some certain products like iPhone. iPhones, if you make in the USA at $2,000 a piece, they're not going to sell. He will have no option but then either China, Vietnam, or India. So let us see what happens. The point really here is that we need to basically also diversify our production, our products, and our markets. We can't just depend upon one market and say that, yes, we have made it. Trump is not going to be an all-weather friend as we assume it to be.
Okay. Dr. Kohli?
Yes.
All right. Dr. Kohli, what's your opinion? Do you think that Trump's intentions are clear at this point in time? He's just troubling India so that we come on a table which is, at an equal standing and footing, whereas trade is concerned, and this is obviously a larger part of his Make America Great Again philosophy?
Good evening, Vineet. Good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I respect Professor Nalapat's editorial intellect and capabilities. I have highest regards for him. I also have high regards for the diplomatic experience of Ambassador Goel, which he has, oodles of experience behind him. But seeking due apology, I would like to completely differ. I have no soft corner for Donald Trump. I have no qualms in making this statement. This man, what he's doing is against the diplomatic principles. This is against the trade principles. This is against the principles of how you deal with countries, how you deal with at the diplomatic level. When he says that India will not be able to, Russia will have to pay the price for exporting oil to India, or India will not be able to export oil from Russia anymore, I think he's blatantly wrong. Indian government is very firm. We are not going to stop our dealings with Russia. If we are getting $2 to $3 cheaper than the market or whatever, at least we are not going to succumb under pressure from Donald Trump on Russia, or because these 50% tariffs have been levied, we are not going to succumb to that pressure. We are a sovereign state. We have got a right to wherever we want to buy. And I think there are two reasons why, this China move has come, the extension of deadline. There are two rares in this, R-A-R-E. One rare is the rare earth minerals, because that has done a bit of arm twisting for Trump, because he knows 90% of these minerals, they come from China. So he's extended this deadline by another 3 months. He couldn't wait for a night for India, but he's willing to wait for another 3 months for China. And the second rare beneath this, and I think this, I'm sure my diplomatic friends would understand, that the moment Prime Minister Modi declared his intentions of attending the SCO summit to be held by end of August, he made that move. That if you're trying to be friends with China, if you're going to get into the Chinese group or the Russia, China, India alliance or collab, whatever it is, then this is what I'll do. I'll extend my soft corner. I'll extend my hand to China as well, that look, I'm going soft on China. So China need not be very, very friendly with India. So there is utter political and diplomatic mix in this whole move. That there are two rare. So rare visit of Prime Minister Modi after 7 years, which is going to happen by the end of this month, and the rare minerals. So these are the two rares which has probably made him postpone what he's doing to China. But we also have a rare, Vineet, which is what I wanted to point out. Our rare is that India at this point controls the tech part of America. And the 6 million Indians there, if you take out these 6 million Indians and PIOs, they may be holding American passports now, but I call them PIOs. If you take them out of America, for that I know, because I have a lot of friends practically in every state, for that I know America is going to come to a standstill. America's digital footprint, America's online presence is going to be shaken if you take out the tech part of Indians from there. America's medical sector is going to be in turmoil if you take out the Indian doctors and the support of Indian generics and APIs or whatever, the system will collapse. So I think that is India's bargaining power. If rare earth minerals is China's bargaining point, India's bargaining point is the strong presence of the PIOs in America at this point of time. And these are the very people, Vineet, who shout Modi, 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 Modi after every sentence that Prime Minister Modi speaks at the stadiums there when those meets, the famous meets are held. It is high time that those people should come together. So are the people in the White House. Some of the very prominent positions in the White House are held by Indians. The Second Lady of America is an Indian. This is the time for the Indianness within them to come out and submit a basic memorandum to Donald Trump that, look, what you're doing is not correct by any means. India is a natural ally. Why are you doing this to India? So I think I completely differ in my opinion as far as Professor Nalapat today is concerned or Ambassador Goyal is concerned. I have no soft corner whatsoever. And I'm so glad that I was amongst the first people, Vineet, on your channel and some of the other media platforms to be very vociferous of what Donald Trump is doing. I even went to the news agencies like ANI, PTI, and I spoke to them. And I'm so glad that some of the very senior ministers in India, Mr. Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, a couple of days ago, he said that some people are getting a hard burn, I'm translating it to English, because of India's growth. The India's growth story is causing a hard burn to some people. Of course, he did not name the person, but we all knew who he's pointing out. We heard Nitin Gadkari, one of the most prominent ministers in the cabinet speaking. We heard Prime Minister Modi indirectly referring that kisi ki dadagiri nahi chalegi. So I'm sorry, I completely resonate with that, and I completely differ from my previous two speakers for this moment, Vineet.
All right, Mr. Konapalli, where do you stand? In all this back and forth, this tug of war between India and America, is China going to be laughing its way to the bank?
Thank you, Vineet. A few fundamentals to start with. During the Trump first administration, the tariffs were imposed because in the last 2 decades, Mexico, Canada, and China had a lot of surplus trade with them. In terms of China, nearly $3 trillion of balance of payments position in favor of Beijing. So that was one where Trump used very colorful words to explain in his election campaign on China. Now, we have a new situation here, as has been mentioned. While the Chinese have a lot of surplus, and that contributed to the entire tariff wars that President Trump had initiated. He made that statement on November 25th last year, soon after he got elected, on the tariffs and the reciprocal tariffs, as well as retaliatory ones, given the Chinese connection to fentanyl, which kills nearly 1 lakh Americans a year, and in addition, the factor of illegal migrants. These are his electoral planks for which he tried to address these issues. Surplus trade other countries are having. India-US surplus trade is around $230 billion in the last, say, 15-20 years. It's not really much. But the Chinese surplus trade with the United States is more than $3 trillion. That's where the heartburn actually is. And everybody else suffered because of this huge surplus the Chinese have been able to generate, for which actually the United States is to be blamed, because the Republicans and the Democrats, since the Clinton administration in the 90s, promoted the shift of industry to China. So much so, today there are 77,000 American companies functioning in China. Now, under the National Intelligence Law of 2017, China can ask for the blueprints of any one of these companies, not just the American, but also European, Japanese, Korean, or others. So this is what the Chinese are holding at this moment. So this is one trump card the Chinese have. The second, of course, as you mentioned, Vineet, the rare earth metals. On this issue, the United States is trying to generate their own rare earth metals. In the 90s, 92, 93, California used to produce substantial rare earth metals. But they wound up the whole process because the Chinese were producing at a cheaper rate. So we also used to produce a lot of APIs, but we gave it to the Chinese because the Chinese were supplying it at a very cheaper rate. So now the Ministry of Commerce, for example, like the American Department of Commerce, we are also now trying to generate these rare earth metals or the APIs in the case of India. So this is the plan B the Americans and Indians are trying to do. However, this will take time. The 90-day reprieve is because it takes nearly 2 to 3 months for the United States to produce these rare earth metals. And so the reprieve it has been given to the Chinese. The larger issue, of course, is that the agreement between China and the US is actually problematic for other countries because the actual situation had arisen because of the Chinese surplus with the United States. The Chinese also diverted a lot of these goods to Mexico.
All right, welcome back. The Supreme Court's order to lock up all stray dogs in the national capital of Delhi has set off an intense volley of reactions from all strata of Indian society, where on one hand there have been protests across the national capital against the Supreme Court's order. On the other end, several people have celebrated the Supreme Court's order, having fallen victim to aggressive stray dogs in the capital. We have been discussing the contentious order and the feasibility of the exercise ordered by the Supreme Court in Delhi extensively since it came out yesterday. And today we have some victims as well as experts representing both sides of the discourse. To begin with, we are being joined live by some people who have suffered from such attacks by stray dogs at this point in time. Joining us on the program is Rohit Netam, who's the uncle of a girl who was in fact attacked by a stray dog. रोहित, अगर आप मेरी आवाज़ सुन पा रहे हैं?
जी।
रोहित, सबसे पहले माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा ये जो ऑर्डर पास हुआ है जिसमें सारे ही जो स्ट्रे डॉग्स हैं उनको एक शेल्टर में भेजा जाए, उनको सड़कों से दूर रखा जाए, इस ऑर्डर के बाद क्या एक किस्म की आप राहत महसूस कर रहे हैं?
जी, अभी तो जैसे जो हमारे घर में हुआ है तो ऐसा होना ही चाहिए। तो गांव में तो खैर गांव में तो बहुत सारे ऐसी स्ट्रीट डॉग हैं जो भी इसी इधर उधर घूमते रहते हैं, तो उन लोग के लिए भी मैं यही कहना चाहूँगा कि थोड़ा सा हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट से जो आदेश हुआ है वो जल्द से जल्द करे, ताकि जो बच्ची हमारे यहाँ जो बच्ची जो हुई है वो किसी और दूसरे बच्चियों के साथ ना हो।
आप ज़रा हमारे दर्शकों को बताने की कोशिश करेंगे कि क्या हुआ था आपकी भांजी के साथ, किस तरीके से उनको एक तरह से अटैक किया गया और फिर उसके बाद क्या हुआ?
जी, ये दरअसल वो स्कूल से आके सोई थी और वो सोने के बाद से वो उठ के खेलने के लिए जा रही थी। अब ये खेलने के बीच में वही जो घर के जो बाड़ी है वहाँ पे लवारिस 5 या 6 टने जो डॉगिस थे वो आके इसके पास मतलब इसको अटैक कर दिए। और वहीं पास में जो घर में काम कर रहे थे हमारे जो घर के भाभी और जो बहन लोग थे उन लोग आके छुड़ाए। अब उन लोग के बावजूद भी वो भाग नहीं रहे थे। उसके बाद जो हमारे गांव के जो सरपंच थे वो आए, फिर जाके पूरी तरह से वो मतलब भागे हैं, तब जाके उसको छोड़े। फिर उसके बाद हम लोग वहीं पास के हॉस्पिटल में बोरई में स्वास्थ्य केंद्र बोरई में हम लोग जाके वहाँ दिखाए। फिर वहाँ उसका जो साफ सफाई किया गया, ब्लडिंग हो रहा था उसको रोका गया, फिर टाँका वाँका लगा। फिर उसके बाद हम लोग को बोला गया कि यहाँ से नगरी रिफ़र करो। फिर नगरी से हम लोग नगरी में दिखाए, फिर नगरी में बोले कि थोड़ा सा क्रिटिकल सिचुएशन है, तो फिर वहाँ से हम लोग को धमतरी रेफ़र किया गया। और फिर धमतरी में हम लोग एक रात रुके थे। अब सुबह जब डॉक्टर राउंड पे आए उसके बाद बोले कि यहाँ नहीं, CT स्कैन और MRI का वगैरह करवाना पड़ेगा, तो आपको रायपुर जाना पड़ेगा ऐसे करके। तो फिर हम लोग रायपुर आए, फिर यहाँ अभी आके उसका ट्रीटमेंट चल रहा है।
अच्छा, तो ये क्या पहला ऐसा अटैक था आपके मोहल्ले में, या फिर इन डॉग्स की वजह से वैसे भी लोग परेशान रहते थे?
ये हम लोग के गांव में ये पहला केस है कि कोई इतना ज़्यादा जो सीरियस था मामला और इतना क्रिटिकल सिचुएशन था। पहले तो इतना चोट किसी को ऐसा लगा ही नहीं था।
अब क्या हालत है आपकी भांजी की, और डॉक्टर क्या बताते हैं?
जी अभी उनका तो हालात अभी धीरे धीरे सुधार में आ रहे हैं।
आपको लगता है कि इस सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इस फरमान से जब कुत्ते हटाए जाएंगे, डॉग फ्री होंगी हमारी स्ट्रीट्स, तो उससे एक तरह से फिर भी लोगों को घूमने फिरने में, रात को चलने में या किसी अनजान मोहल्ले में जाने में आसानी होगी?
जी आसानी होगी। और जो बच्चियां हैं जो जिनको हम डरते रहते हैं कि इधर उधर, अब तो उनसे थोड़ा सा राहत मिलेगा कि कोई स्ट्रीट डॉग उन पे हमला ना करे, अटैक ना करे।
All right, at this point in time, Nidhi Saxena Bhatnagar, animal activist, dog bite victim, is also joining us on the show. Nidhi, are you there with us? I hope you can hear me. Nidhi? Nidhi, if you can hear me, please speak up.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, Nidhi, I've been told that you support the Supreme Court order. Why is that?
See, I have many points for supporting this order. My first point goes that I'm also an animal lover, a dog lover, not just dog lover, animal lover. And I really feel that, really feel bad for the stray dogs who are just roaming around, and they are not getting any medical facilities. They are not getting proper vaccination, sterilization, which they should be getting. So the point here is that, animal lover does not mean that you just give them few treats here and there and you just feed them randomly at your own will and leftover from your house. So that is not what an animal lover would be. So they're in my where I live in society, in Noida, Sector 137, Paramount. Here in our society, we have almost 19 to 20 dogs. And at any point of time, we have almost 19-20 dogs roaming around freely. And our kids are completely, inside, restricted inside. They cannot go inside. Elderly cannot go inside, as you were just discussing. So it's a very painful situation to see that we are not able to go outside. And this is the major reason that I really support this order.
What has been your personal experience when it comes to stray dogs?
My personal experience is that I personally have been attacked 3 times by dogs. Fortunately, I was not bitten, but my mother, who is a senior citizen, she was bitten. Just a few months back, she was bitten. She was just on her daily routine morning walk, and without any provocation, she was bitten on her leg. And since then, I would say it's not always about, everybody's talking about rabies. So it's not always about getting infected through rabies, but it is also the trauma and pain the victim and the family goes through. So you cannot say that bite is just a dog has bitten, let it be. So it's also about the trauma and pain of we are unable to use that particular way where this incident happened. And it is just not with me. I would say there are I can actually say that 70 to 75% people of our society have been attacked at one point of the time.
Well, there are a lot of people who are saying that, if these dogs were managed well, if they were neutered and, had they been given proper vaccines from time to time, it would not be such a problem. What do you have to say to such activists?
That's really correct. Actually, that is the reason. It's dogs are not the problem. The problem is that the situation was not handled properly initially. And people are being very irresponsible in feeding. They are giving lame excuses and lame reasons to just feed them. So that is the main reason. Dogs in themselves are not the reasons and main reason is basically the irresponsible feeding, irresponsible behavior of so-called dog lovers, who are not actually dog lovers. You just, like I just now said, that just feeding them randomly is not called dog lovers. You are actually just trying to validate yourself in the society. That's it. Nothing else.
Okay, Dr. Asher Jesudas, member of the Delhi State Animal Welfare Board, is also joining us on the program. Dr. Asher, appreciate you being here with us. From what I have been told, that you don't support the Supreme Court order. Can you tell me why?
Right, so there are multiple reasons for this. First of all, it is I don't know, I don't even know where to start. The first, I think the most important thing is that it's not practically implementable, because right now we don't even know how many dogs there are in Delhi. You know, some people say 4 lakhs, some people say 7 lakhs, some people say 8 lakhs. We don't know. There are no official numbers as to how many dogs there are. I think the scientific way to deal with the problem is to first figure out the scale of the problem. We need to know exactly what number of dogs we're dealing with, right? Secondly, even if you take like a number of 7 lakhs, which is about 3% of the human population, which is generally pretty accurate for any metropolitan city, we don't have the land, we don't have any existing shelters, we don't have the budget, we don't have the manpower, trained personnel required to catch and vaccinate these dogs. So that's one aspect of the entire deal. Now, the second reason is there are 20 ABC centers in Delhi, right, which take care of the vaccination and sterilization of these dogs, and they return them. We've visited each of these sterilization centers, these ABC centers, and they're run by the Municipal Corporation of Delhi. And you know, this dream that we have that we're going to build this amazing shelter and dogs are going to be really happy and vaccinated and well taken care of, that's not the reality. We're a developing nation. We don't have enough manpower. We don't have enough budget. We don't have the wherewithal, the space for so many dogs. In fact, you know, the Supreme Court has proposed that initially you need to start with 5,000 dogs, right? Even for 5,000 dogs, at 3,000 rupees per month, we're talking about 1.5 crores every month just for the upkeep of these dogs. We're not talking about medical expenses. We're not talking about the cost of building the shelter. We're not talking about the cost of sterilizing these dogs, which we still have to do despite the shelters. And after doing all of this, after spending all this money, you know, what you're going to actually do is you're going to take all the dogs from your societies who are friendly, and most of them are friendly, and they're kind of used to the people around them, and you're going to take them out. And what's going to happen is most of these areas are forests, right? We've got forest boundaries. New dogs are going to come in, and they're going to start breeding. Right? Now, these dogs are not going to be friendly. They're not going to be vaccinated. They're not going to be sterilized. It's going to only increase the problem. And when new dogs come in, they fight with each other to set a pecking order. And when that happens, dogs are going to start fighting with each other. Humans are going to get caught in the crossfire. Their bite instances are going to go up. So we need to think long term, right? We're just like, right now, we're just thinking of this fancy idea कि कोई shelter बना देंगे और सारे कुत्तों को डाल देंगे. It's not that simple. It's an expensive process. It's not scientific. It's not in accordance with the existing order of the Supreme Court, which existed before this. It's not in accordance with the law. It's not in accordance with the WHO's own mandate, which is scientific. It's just not practical. It's not morally right. The dogs are going to. It's just a death sentence for dogs. IIT Madras actually tried this in their campus. They rounded up all their dogs and they put them in a shelter within campus, and they tried to make it really good. But within no time, all the dogs died one after the other. There are documented records of this, So this doesn't work. I mean, we've got multiple cases of why such an arrangement doesn't work. And we've got an existing ABC program, which has been successful in countries like Bhutan, in countries like Denmark, in states like Sikkim, places like Lucknow and Dehradun, states like Goa, where they've had a very successful implementation with a very small number of ABC centers. Delhi, in fact, has 20 ABC centers who claim that they've sterilized 7 lakh dogs in the last 7 years. This is official data submitted by them. We don't even have 7 lakh dogs in Delhi. So which shows that they're just doing all this on paper. They're taking the money in, and we don't know where it's going. But dogs are certainly not getting sterilized. And that's the biggest problem. You've got an amazing set of scientific rules that just have to be implemented. The municipal corporation isn't implementing it, and the dogs are bearing the brunt for something that the corporation is supposed to do. So I hope I've kind of covered. I mean, there's a lot more to say, but this is briefly why I don't agree with the judgment, because it's highly impractical. It's
but
immoral,
Dr. Asher, India is also, in fact, one of those very few countries which still has a large share of people who die of rabies. 36% of all the deaths that happen in the world of rabies are attributed to India. Now, that is not a stat that we want to be associated with. I agree with you, that it's not the dog's fault, but there has to be a system, there has to be a shelter, there has to be infrastructure created for these strays. They're not supposed to mix with the normal population. In no other country in the world would you find stray dogs living amidst, the regular civilian population of that nation. It's only in India. There is something very odd and bizarre about it.
Not really. I mean, you look at most developed nations, dogs and humans have coexisted for several thousand years, and they still do. Any developed nation would probably have implemented different solutions because they have the wherewithal for that. But most developing nations, you look at Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, you look at some of the Middle Eastern countries like Lebanon, Morocco, whatever. So, all of these countries have street dogs, community dogs that are living with humans. And there are examples of where these populations have been managed really well scientifically. Talking about the bite numbers, there's this absurd number that's being circulated that there are 20,000 deaths that are happening because of rabies. The official number that was submitted,
not that high. It's about it's less than 100. I know.
It's 54. It's 54. And it's not 30% of all the deaths in the world. So all these numbers are fabricated.
No, it is. It is, Dr. Asher. If only 200 people die in the world of rabies, then that is a big number.
Right, but where are we getting this number of 200? Right, from the entire. But anyway, so we're talking about the solutions. When we talk about the solutions, the solution is sterilizing and vaccinating these dogs. What we must understand is that the dog is not the source of rabies. Just like humans are victims of rabies, the dog is also a victim of rabies. So yesterday I was on a news channel where a doctor was asking me, have you ever been to a rabies ward? Have you ever seen a person suffering from rabies? I'm pretty sure it's horrible. It must be really horrible. And I really empathize with the person who's had to go through that. But a dog suffers as much from rabies. I've had dogs die in my own arms who suffered from rabies, who've been bitten by other dogs maybe or other animals, So rabies is something that both dogs and humans are victims of. And a vaccinated dog actually creates a barrier for humans, right? Because all these wild animals roam around and rabies can be caused by monkeys, by bats, by any mammal, right? So vaccinated dogs actually create a barrier, and there's herd immunity that's developed, and that's precisely what we were aiming for when we were trying to immunize ourselves during COVID as well. So what we're now doing is we're taking all these vaccinated dogs away from our societies, and the new dogs are going to start coming in. The bite instances are going to increase, and the chances of contracting rabies are going to also increase because those dogs are not going to be vaccinated. We're looking at a very short-handed, short-sighted approach, and we're not looking at how it's going to cascade into, a system of enormous.
Nidhi, how do you respond to what Dr. Asher has said? Do you agree with what he's saying that we're not looking at this approach scientifically?
See, what I feel is that it is not a very scientific way of you cannot just randomly put all the dogs at one place. So definitely the implementation plan has to be there. A good implementation plan has to be there. But at the same time, I would like to tell you here in our sector in 137, Noida Authority has created a very beautiful dog park. Okay, and they have invested good amount of money in it. Now, why is that dog park created? It is not just few thousands or lakhs that has been invested in that. Good amount of money has been invested in that, and why that dog park is being unutilized. For sure, stray dogs are not going to use that dog park. It is like, a good slides and a vet doctor and a pool and everything there. And definitely it is being used for the pet dogs by their owners. So why can't that kind of facility be used? So talking about that authorities or civic bodies don't have the budget, I really don't agree with it. They really do have the budget. It is just that they are not channelizing, they are not using it properly. For what reason the dogs were not vaccinated or sterilized at the first chance?
That's my point, right? So there are existing rules that have not been implemented properly, right? So vaccination and sterilization is the proven way. We've seen this in several societies, several localities where the dog populations have almost, come down to like less than 5 from 25, 30 over 5 years, because dogs eventually they grow old and they get sick and, eventually the population declines. Now, instead of implementing, and enforcing a scientific process that already exists, right? So increase the budget, maybe hold the MCD, the municipal corporations accountable, and get the focus into the sterilization and vaccination. Because like you said, it's impractical. You can't have 7 lakh dogs in how many shelters are you going to build and where? And it's absolutely absurd. It's just not possible. And the problem is not that even assuming that you've done all of this, right? With our current waste management systems and all the organic waste that we kind of dispose in every street, nook and corner. If these dogs go, there's an ecosystem that's suddenly opened, right? So either rodent populations are going to increase. This happened in London, when they killed off all the dogs, like back in the 18th century. And the entire city suffered from plague because the rat populations
But
went
there are
up.
no dogs on the streets today, Dr. Asher, in London. They're only pet dogs.
Yes, but they're a developed nation. They had a very strong adoption policy and a shelter and adoption policy, and they had the infrastructure built.
Don't you think this is a chance for us? Don't you think it's a chance for us to emulate these advanced civilizations?
I don't think so, because you look at the roads in London and you look at the roads in Indian cities, and you see that we don't even have we don't even have the roads properly fixed, which is the cause of the leading number of road accidents, which actually kill way more people than dogs. So if you really want to kind of stop people from dying, then focus on the reasons that are killing people the most. Enforce your traffic rules and fix your roads and things like that. We're a developing nation. We cannot compare. And look at the population of London, and look at the population of all of England, and compare it to just a city like Delhi. It will probably be just the same, right? So, and we're talking about this entire country of India. It's not practically possible. In fact, the World Health Organization has recommended the ABC program as the only practical solution. It's been implemented in so many countries, so many states. And there's just no reason to doubt it, because there are so many success stories where it's implemented properly.
Okay. Nidhi, would you want to respond to that? That perhaps, considering how India is still evolving, is still shaping its own future as an economy, as a civilization, there are other priorities to be dealt with when it comes to human suffering than target these poor dogs.
See, I'll tell you one thing, that what happens when there is an international event? That time, where does all these dogs go? Why that time dogs are hidden? So that means that you want a dog-free, you want to showcase a dog-free society, right? Let me just finish. Okay, firstly. And then it's like, saying that, like what you were saying right now, that rat population will increase. So any species, overpopulated species, is a problem. So right now the problem is the overpopulation of the dog species. So if they are not adopted, if they're not getting proper homes and proper shelters, they have to be managed somehow. Because saying that people, human and dogs can, stray dogs especially, can coexist, that is simply not possible at such a big population.
Okay. All right. At this point in time, we also have Mr. Atul Goyal, President of Urja. Mr. Atul, appreciate you being here. Well, we have two sides on the show today. Dr. Asher is obviously not happy with the Supreme Court decision, saying that this is not going to, in fact, be good for the dogs, as well as it's not going to change much. Nidhi, on the other hand, feels that this is a good start. Where do you stand, sir?
Pardon, can you please repeat it?
So can you hear me? I just formulated a big question for you, and if you're not able to hear me, sir, then we won't be able to speak to you.
Hello?
Okay, there seems to be a problem with this connection. I'm sorry, Atul, we can't use you. There seems to be a problem with your connection. Okay, Dr. Asher, going back to you. Would you want to respond to what Nidhi said? You were shaking your head when she did mention about the rodent issue that you spoke of.
No, it wasn't about the rodent issue. It was about the fact that dogs and humans cannot coexist. In fact, dogs and humans have coexisted for more than 10,000 years. In fact, that's why dogs live amongst us, because we domesticated them for our own benefit from wolves. And we've created so many breeds and whatever. So over 10,000 years, dogs have kind of evolved to be creatures who cannot survive without human beings. So they need human beings to survive, because they cannot survive in the wild. And, and she's right. She's right when she says that there is an overpopulation of dogs and there's an overpopulation of humans as well. But we're not putting all the humans in shelters. So there has to be a more compassionate way of dealing with it. And the compassionate way is animal birth control. So ABC stands for animal birth control. So you control the birth of new animals, and that's how the population decreases. And that's always saying that, there is a program, there's a scientific program, which is humane, which is legal, which is moral, which has been proven to be a success in several countries in several states. Why don't we focus on implementing that properly, holding authorities responsible, rather than, implementing this knee-jerk kind of a reaction? It's like Tughlaq waking up one day and say, let's go to Aurangabad and make our capital over there. I mean, it's like, okay, fine, you go there and or whatever, or you move to a different place and you find that there's no water there or something. I mean, you've not even tried and tested this in a developing country. You're saying that, you move 7 lakh dogs to a shelter. It's absurd. It's absurd. I mean,
fair enough. We've run out of time. Appreciate everybody who joined us. We take a short break now. We'll be right back.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया NewsX का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त मजबूत जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
I grew up in a household of strong women, so I just do what they tell me. It's very simple.
कि मैंने हिम्मत करी, मैंने कहा मुझे अगर कोई मौका मिलेगा मैं पीछे नहीं हटूंगी क्योंकि मौके बार बार नहीं आते।
हमारे देश में दुर्भाग्य है कि महिलाओं का साथ महिलाएं ही नहीं देती हैं।
मैंने 5000 वॉलेट से स्टार्ट की थी, आज 5 लाख 6 लाख मेरे हर वक्त वॉलेट में रहते हैं।
When a woman is surrounded by a family that motivates you to be your best and to be financially independent.
It's just you are beautiful and stunning, and you like it's a pleasure to just see you.
Being on Netflix in 192 countries worldwide, it is, I mean, that kind of exposure is staggering.
Saying that if a city is safe for a girl, making our city safe for everybody, that we're all a part of this.
Media and cinema contributes to our concept of popular history.
Being validated, of course, makes you feel great for that moment.
90% of the girls go for the top 10% of men. It's evolution. Everything men do is to impress women.
I feel the woman is Shakti. That's empowerment.
From last 10-15 years, we are actually re-educating ourselves.
Even the defense sector of our country understands that power is women.
Find our own voices, to find our own stories and to tell it ourselves.
Women voted in higher number than men, and I think they make better decisions than most men.
Women voters think differently, they vote differently, they make their own choices differently.
The NewsX Shakti Award for Excellence in Empowering Women, Neha Dhupia.
To Radhika Bharatramji, Shalini Pasi,
Professor Himani Sood,
to Ritu Berry,
Shireen Man,
Ms. Ishi Khosla, congratulations Deepika ji. Dr. Alkanchri Dahar,
Urfi Javed, Dr. Tanya Bakshi Rohadgi,
Sunny Leone,
Kamakshi Khanna, Ms. Pooja Ellingbam,
Malvika Mohanan, Nikita Luther, Dreema Das,
Purnima Devi Burman,
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया NewsX का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
I grew up in a household of strong women, so I just do what they tell me.
All right, welcome back. Some breaking news coming in. Indigo responds to DGCA notice. Indigo spokesperson has said that we confirm the receipt of a show cause notice issued by the DGCA pertaining to simulator training of some of our pilots. We are in the process of reviewing the same and will respond to the regulator within the stipulated timeline. We remain committed to ensuring the highest standards of safety and compliance across our operations. All right, pertaining to safety standards, the DGCA of course has cracked down on Indigo and issued a notice pertaining to some exercises with the simulator. What they are, what exactly is the notice all about, and what Indigo needs to do at this point in time is something we will have told to us by my colleague Arzu, who's joining us at this point in time. Arzu?
Yes.
Arzu, what is this notice all about? Give us more sense as to what has Indigo done.
Aviation regulator DGCA has issued a show case notice to Indigo for alleged lapses in simulator training conducted for nearly 1,700 pilots, according to the sources. And sources also telling us that the show cause notice was issued after scrutiny of records and replies received from the airline last month, and Indigo said that it is in the process of reviewing the show cause notice. So now the statement has been given, and Indigo confirmed the receipt of the show cause notice issued by the DGCA pertaining to simulator training of some of our pilots. And they also said that Indigo are in the process of reviewing the same and will respond to the regulator within the stipulated timeline. Indigo remain committed to ensuring the highest standard of safety and compliance across our operation. So this is a statement that the Indigo has said. But if we talk about the issue, the aviation regulator DGCA has issued a show cause notice to Indigo for alleged lapses in the simulator training conducted for nearly 1,700 pilots. Yes, Sunil.
Arzu, thank you for joining us. All right, moving on. Well, the US has labeled the Balochistan Liberation Army as a foreign terrorist organization. The announcement made by the Department of State comes after the BLA or Majid Brigade was designated a specially designated global terrorist organization in 2019. In a statement, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the move demonstrates the Trump administration's commitment to countering terrorism. Recent BLA attacks have further inflamed tensions between Pakistan and India, with Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir accusing New Delhi of fueling the violence from US soil. Prominent Baloch activist Mir Baloch said that the US decision was nothing short of a diplomatic disgrace, adding that Balochistan is not a province to be claimed but a nation of its own right. We'll talk about this with our guest who are joining us at this point in time. Emir Mustakhan, Baloch senior journalist from the United States, with us on the show. Razak Baloch, Secretary General of Baloch at American Congress, USA. Major General Gigi Dwivedi, Global Strategic and Defense Expert, with us on the program as well. Last but by no means the least, Surinder Singh Lali, Foreign Affairs Expert, and Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, also joining us on the program. Sumit Peer, I'll begin with you. Well, what do you make of the Americans calling the BLA a terrorist organization? When they talk about, not standing with terrorism, then why are they entertaining Asim Munir? Then why are they saying that they want to do crypto business with Pakistan, which is the biggest proponent, the creator of terrorism in the world? What is this hypocrisy all about, and how much is Pakistan to blame for this kind of a labeling towards BLA?
Vinny, thank you for having me on your show, sir. Very good question. Look, it is utter American hypocrisy. It is utter American double standards. It is the politics of convenience. It is the foreign policy of the quarter or other week or month what they work on nowadays. Now, I don't understand. Is Trump's ego so fragile? Last time he tweeted and a Baloch leader kind of replied to his tweet or this truth post saying, look, Balochistan is not Pakistan. It's an independent province or a country. And whatever are the resources of Balochistan will be determined and decided by the Baloch people, not by Pakistan or a Pakistani general. This man's ego has crossed so much of level, and it has reached the sense of absurdity that he declares BLA as a FTO. Now, it is all done because Munir must have plundered him loot and, must have promised him this Rico deck. The fact remains, Munir tried to sell Rico deck to Saudis. He even tried to lure Russians at one point of time. He tried to lure Chinese. He tried to lure Europe. Now he is trying to lure America. Now Rico deck has world's second biggest copper and the gold reserves. But the fact is that the land belongs to Baloch and it's a Baloch territory. By designating the legitimate freedom organizations as, FTOs. And what is Munir? Munir is the perpetrator of Pulwama. He is the man behind the Pahalgam attacks. He is the biggest terrorist in the uniform. And one of the Pentagon officers have already called him. He's Osama bin Laden in uniform. Now, if this man is hosted and you're giving him all the Baja, Gaja and Tamasha in US and the legitimate people who are foreign, freedom fighters, you are designating them terrorists because you want to cut a deal for minerals of Balochistan with Mullah Munir. That is what your whole game plan is. That is why after 5 years, suddenly you woke up and say, oh, this BLA's Majid Brigade is FTO, because they dare to reply you. They called you a bluff. They called you, look, you can't cut deals with Pakistan. The territory doesn't belong to Pakistan. It is this man, Vineet, who has crossed all the levels of absurdity. It's I, me, myself. It's the height of narcissism. It is that syndrome which can destroy the nation. Even once his mother told that don't get him into the politics, he can destroy the whole America. And that is what he is doing. I'm very sorry that, BLA is kind of designated as a FTO. But what about brass? What about BLF? Because again, Americans are playing dirty here. They don't want to touch brass. They don't want to touch BLF because they want to have even a balance, check and balance again Munir. If you are not able to deliver, okay, BLF is free, BLA is free. Brass is free. Now, after designating as a FTO, Vineet, so what do you say? You freeze their accounts. You arrest their people. They can't travel anywhere. You can seize their passports. You can check their funding. You can put them in surveillance in America and Europe. And any Baloch today, after being designated as FTO, BLF, BLA and Majid Brigade, you can say they are part of Majid Brigade and you can put them under surveillance.
Okay.
And you are given Pakistan a license to kill. You are given Pakistan a license to, do a genocide in Balochistan.
All right, Sumit, we have a house full today. Let me also rope in Mr. Mustakhan, senior journalist, Baloch senior journalist from the United States. Mr. Mustakhan, I hope you can hear me, sir.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mustakhan, what do you make of this, labeling of the BLA as well as, hosting Asim Munir twice in less than a few months?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think you know a lot about foreign policy because you have traveled a lot. I believe so, and this has been, you see, quite distressing because Asim Munir had less than 40 hours earlier threatened to blow up the world.
Correct.
Right from the US soil. He was speaking in Tampa, Florida, in which he said if he feels that Pakistan is being defeated militarily, then he is going to blow up half of the world. It is on record. It's very shameful that this corrupt, morally bankrupt American administration has designated the Baloch freedom fighters as terrorists. It is no secret that the US military itself is the biggest terrorist in the world. They have the blood of Vietnamese on their hands. They have the blood of Afghans on their hands. They have the blood of people around the world on their hands. They cannot be the moral guardians of the globe. They are, right now, I feel ashamed to say that the person who is in the White House is the closest buddy of Jeffrey Epstein, who every American hates like hell. Even his own constituents, the MAGA in America, they hate Jeffrey Epstein. This guy, this Asim Munir, he has come and he has sold this cryptocurrency to Trump's very close buddy, Steve Witkoff. As you know, I don't think Marco Rubio is making the policy at the State Department. In many, many crucial areas of the world, Steve Witkoff is making the policy. He is making the policy regarding Pakistan. He's making the policy regarding Iran. He's making the policy regarding so many things because he is President Trump's golf buddy and very close business partner. Their sons have launched that World Liberty Financial for cryptocurrency business. It's a very corrupt system here now. As you can see, the IMF had bailed out Pakistan time and again, and you could, it is all widely published that the Pakistani military had provided the Ukrainians with arms, and that is when the IMF, you see, helped them with the bailout. So it's a very corrupt international system. The CIA is actually calling the shots. Most interesting thing is, in every embassy, in American embassy, there is an officer who monitors human rights. But what happens is the CIA comes in and say, no, just forget about whatever this guy is saying because we are going to take care of it. And that's what is happening now. And as you know, at this time, we have a president who is totally transactional. He has actually gotten rid of hundreds of career bureaucrats. I really don't know where this American foreign policy had headed for. Thank you.
You're quite right about that, General Dwivedi. How do you look at this, turn of events, especially some of these statements that have been made on American soil? There's saber rattling happening when it comes to nuclear weapons, and the Americans are allowing it, and they're calling the BLA terrorists.
Absolutely, Vineet. First and foremost, I think world knows, as also America knows, whom to deal in Pakistan, because Pakistan is run by the Pakistan Army. It is the chief who is the person to deal with, and their political dispensation is only a front face. So therefore, they are dealing with the chief of the Army Staff Field Marshal Asim Munir. Point number two, that today America's foreign policy stands totally commercialized. It's all commercial business. There's nothing known as foreign policy or even defense policy is all commercialized. And Asim Munir, besides being the chief, he is also heading the economic wing of Pakistan. He is also brokering the economic deals. So he is the person who is actually brokering all the deals with Trump and his lackeys like Witkoff. So we should not be surprised as to what exactly is happening, because it's all give and take. It's all how Trump, his ego is being fulfilled, and more than that, how America is pursuing a very short-term interest. Once America had declared TRF as a terrorist organization, now Asim Munir was pressurizing Americans, and he have good relations with the American generals like General Correll. He had been invited twice on his behest. So he has been able to orchestrate this declaration of Balochistan Liberation Army as a terrorist organization. In summation, I just like to make two important points. First and foremost, Pakistan Army is basically today headed by the terrorist generals, and therefore they are the ones who are actually creating major problems in the region. Secondly, Asim Munir is actually a person who is ideologue. He is not an army professional general. He is more of an ideologue, and he is making very, very provocative statement, whether it is nuclear assets or whether it is something to do with the world at large, like they will, fire missiles at the Indus, they will destroy half the world along. Well, I think this man himself is also off the grid. So I think India should take very serious steps and not tolerate these type of statements being made from America, which considers themselves to be Indian allies and also the ones who are the beacon of a democratic system. So all I can say is that we should take a very tough stand, draw very clear red lines, and stand with the Baluchi people because they are under repression, they are under, genocide is going on, and human rights are being violated at will. I think this is the time we need to express our full support to the people of Baloch.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough, sir. Mr. Razak Baloch, what do you expect that India will do now? There obviously is a bonhomie now between the Americans and the Pakistani, which the people of Balochistan, of course, and the people of India do not heed to, do not prescribe to. But the fact of the matter is that, the ISI, the military, and the puppet government in Pakistan is here to stay. The system is not going to change unless, countries like America and India and perhaps even Russia and China understand that the dangers that Pakistan poses. The general is announcing nuclear war, from the United States, which obviously should be construed in the baddest light possible.
I thank NewsX for this opportunity, and we live in America, and let me explain a little bit and then I'll come back to your question. You see, the Pakistan army is so weak, they came running to America to ask for help to put BLA on the terrorist list. And the general said there are 1,500 people. So for 1,500 people, Pakistan has no shame to come and cry in front of USA to do this. So it means they are already defeated, and the Baloch nation is with the sorry, the Baloch nation is with the freedom fighters. There is no distinction between this group or that group. All the groups are fighting for their homeland. When George Washington has a right to take up arms, we have a right to take up arms. United Nations allow us to take up arms to free our land. Balochistan was a free country and will be a free country. And the irony is, Pakistan is threatening they're going to blow up the half of the world. So our leader Tarachand Baloch is approaching the State Department. This Pakistan must be sanctioned and must be kicked out of the United Nations the way they behave. Like Sardar Atawla Khan said, this Pakistan army is enough to destroy Pakistan. There's no need for politics. So that's why we are not doing politics anymore. We are not going to go to their Senate and Assembly or Provincial Assembly. That's why we have taken up arms. And they don't understand that American army is going to be on the soil of Balochistan to kick out China, not Baloch. Baloch cannot be kicked out from their own land. And Baloch fighters not going to allow any country to take up our gold and mineral resources. We're going to safeguard them. We're going to kick whoever is going to be with the criminal Pakistani army. We're going to kick them out. They have to talk to the Baloch people if they want to come to Balochistan. That is my point. And we are trying to approach the other departments of USA that Pakistan must be sanctioned. That's my point.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Lali, should Pakistan be sanctioned? But look at the tide, Mr. Lali. we're thinking of sanctioning Pakistan. We're thinking of educating the world of how dangerous this country can be. A man who runs this country is saying that if something happens to us, we'll take down half of the world with us. And then you are actually banning perhaps, some of the people who are tired of their torture, who are tired of the way they've been treated by the Pakistani Punjabi military generals, that is the Balochistanis.
Vineet, I wanted to start on a serious note, but you said the Punjabi word. So Pakistan reminds me of the famous Punjabi called Parminder in Sholay. When he gets thoroughly intoxicated and climbs up a water tank and says that if he doesn't get married to Basanti, he's going to jump. So this is what Pakistan is to the world. I mean, they are the biggest blackmailers. That rogue insurgent army is the biggest terrorist organization, which openly a few miles away from Mar-a-Lago says that, we'll take half the world with us. I mean, I don't blame Pakistan anymore. It's half the world who sold their, actually sold their soul. I mean, 34 felonies, 1 conviction, 2 impeachments, and 7 bankruptcies. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the 47th President of the United States of America. And as Mr. Khan said, the jury is still out on the Epstein files. And on top of that failed marshal called Mr. Munir goes and says that he should be given a Nobel Prize. For what? I mean, it's shameful. And Vineet, there are 4 ways I wish to describe, like very distinguished people before me also said, and if I want to summarize, the very mercurial, mercantilist, megalomaniac monarch is how I define Donald J. Trump. It is shameful that as much as America stood for freedom, liberties, and rights, and that all that facade which they created, and then they destroyed countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, and other nations, they actually ought to be shameful because they're inviting a general who himself anointed himself as a field marshal for lunch, where the democratic leader who had the maximum mandate, Imran Khan, is sitting in jail. Vineet, I think the two-nation theory is again in effect, and I stand in absolute solidarity with Mr. Razak and Mr. Khan. And this time when I say the two-nation theory, I'm referring to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. Inshallah, they should be independent nations very soon. We need over 7,000 people are missing. Those people have been protesting outside in Islamabad and nobody cares about them. It is so sad that instead of banning TLP and Lashkar-e-Toiba, I mean, they are openly, the army generals and army people in their fatigues are openly going and paying in these envelopes, the cadres at D Chowk and Faizabad for being a part of that symbolic protest. I mean, Masood Azhar and Sayyid Salahuddin are people who should be behind bars. And we need one last point is that, quite often people used to say that, Pakistan is a country where the country doesn't have an army is a country. So with the mercantilist Donald J. Trump as president, now I say that America doesn't have a president. The failed businessman, the megalomaniac president now has a country for which he's using for his best political and financial interest. I mean, his stocks have doubled, his worth has doubled. And I think by the time he gets done, which is going to be pretty soon in the midterm, he's going to probably be 5 times more richer, and he's going to probably pardon himself too in the Jeffrey Epstein case, Vineet.
All right. Well, we've run out of time. Sumit Peer, you raised your hand quickly before we go. What to make of this newfound chemistry between the Americans and the Pakistanis? Maybe Pakistan does not realize, or perhaps even America does not realize, that how dangerous a country Pakistan is.
Americans are the people, they will only realize when they will start getting body bags from Pakistan. Till the time, Americans are not going to realize. That's the number one. You see, I want to draw one analogy. These Americans have bombed half of the world in the name of human rights and democracy, right? Now, let me draw a parallel here. You are going and bombing Iran and telling them, look, you can have a nuclear bomb tomorrow. You can have a nuclear bomb tomorrow, which you will use against Israel and you will decimate Israel. Okay? We come and bomb your Fardo, Isfahan and all. Okay, point taken. Now there you have a jihadi general who is sitting on your soil and is threatening to bomb and destroy half of the world. By the way, India is not half of the world. India is 5% of the land and 10%, 18% of the population. When you call half of the world, you are talking of around 4 billion people and half of the earth. And this man has no diplomatic immunity. You should be arresting him or you should be deporting him. How do you draw a logic between attacking Iran and pardoning Islamabad? What is this logic? It is a futuristic thing. They might have a bomb. That bomb may be used against Israel, so we'll go and destroy them. But here you have a general who is a rabid jihadi, by the way, and he has so many innocent people's blood on his hand. He's telling you, forget India, I'll take down half of the world. And he is their state guest. Uska band baja swagat ho raha hai. And that man is neither arrested nor deported. And again, these Americans have not uttered one single sentence condemning that man. At least you condemn, you come and say, we are not with it. At least have some, those few English words spoken. But the hypocrisies have not spoken, because today, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, nobody knows what Trump will do. Nobody knows what Trump will do. They're absolutely clueless. They are just waiting and watching Trump like you and me, and they get to hear from the maybe newspaper or a half an hour before Trump has ordered this. I mean, Vineet, look at this instant when Trump in Saudi Arabia announced, Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio brokered the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. If you look at that video, both of them are looking at each other. They're utterly surprised. What did we do? And he said, hey, Pete, can you get up? Mark, can you get up? They're looking at each other. I mean, that was a kind of a feeling. And this man has crossed all limits of absurdity. These American double standards are grossly exposed. Tell me, why is Iran treated one way and why is Islamabad treated another way? There's one person who may have a bomb and destroy somebody, and there's a person who has bombs, and I is telling you, I'll take down the whole world and I'm your state honor and your guest. And let me tell you, Vineet, one more interesting thing. Somebody told me he carried this Pakistan's highest civilian award in a suitcase with his lingeries. Whatever, and maybe jute chappal, and he gave that to General Michel Kurela. Have you seen the highest civilian awards carried in a attaché and given to somebody at his home? Aloji Toda Award. I mean, that is this is the waqt of the public Pakistan's highest civilian honor award. And is this man a courier? Does he work for Amazon? I mean, people like Amazon and all, they do all the jobs. So, which is it? DHL, Amazon, Blue Dart? Which company does Munir work for?
All right. Okay. All right. We've run out of time, but appreciate everybody who joined us. It was a pleasure having all of you here. We take a short break now. We'll be back.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया NewsX का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
I grew up in a household of strong women, so I just do what they tell me. It's very simple.
मैंने हिम्मत करी, मैंने कहा मुझे अगर कोई मौका मिलेगा मैं पीछे नहीं हटूंगी, क्योंकि मौके बार बार नहीं आते।
हमारे देश में दुर्भाग्य है कि महिलाओं का साथ महिलाएं ही नहीं देती हैं।
मैंने 5000 वॉलेट से स्टार्ट की थी, आज 5 लाख 6 लाख मेरे हर वक्त वॉलेट में रहते हैं।
When a woman is surrounded by a family that motivates you to be your best and to be financially independent.
It's just you are beautiful and stunning, and you like it's a pleasure to just see you.
Being on Netflix in 192 countries worldwide, it is, I mean, that kind of exposure is staggering.
Saying that if a city is safe for a girl, making our city safe for everybody, that we're all a part of this.
Media and cinema contributes to our concept of popular history.
Being validated, of course, makes you feel great for that moment.
90% of the girls go for the top 10% of men. It's evolution. Everything men do is to impress women.
I feel the woman is Shakti. That's empowerment.
From last 10-15 years, we are actually re-educating ourselves.
Even the defense sector of our country understands that power is women.
Find our own voices, to find our own stories and to tell it ourselves.
Women voted in higher number than men, and I think they make better decisions than most men.
Women voters think differently, they vote differently, they make their own choices differently.
The NewsX Shakti Award for Excellence in Empowering Women, Neha Dhupia. To Radhika Bharatramji. Shalini Pasi.
Professor Himani Sood,
To Ritu Berry.
Shireen Man,
Ms. Ishi Khosla, congratulations Deepika ji. Dr. Alkanchri Dahar,
Urfi Javed, Dr. Tanya Bakshi Rohadgi,
Sunny Leone,
Kamakshi Khanna, Ms. Pooja Ellingbam,
Malvika Mohanan. Nikita Luther. Dreema Das.
Purnima Devi Burman,
अगर आप बन
All right, well, as the standoff between India and President Trump continues, the Indian markets brace for impact while Indians living in the United States expect their supply of Indian imports to shoot up in cost. What will be the impact of Trump's tariff tantrums? NewsX has brought some of the most prominent members of the Indian diaspora to discuss this issue, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing in the next few minutes. Joining us on the program at this point in time is Mr. Arvind Mahajan, Professor of Finance, Texas A&M University. Mr. Mahajan, appreciate you joining us. I hope you can hear me, sir.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So thank you for joining us and taking out the time and speaking with NewsX. First up, what was your initial reaction when the tariffs were pumped up from 25% to 50% by Donald Trump? The feeling in India is, of course, very, very that of being disappointed, because the Indian people thought that the Americans are a friend of ours and we will never be put through this kind of a treatment. What are your thoughts on this whole tariff narrative?
Yeah, so I can clearly understand the sensibilities of the Indians, and frankly, on the first pass, that was my reaction as well. However, I think we have to step back and look at this whole issue of tariffs and trade in a more dispassionate manner, and also in the context of Trump administration and his style of negotiations. So while it may seem a bit unfair, the tariff policy to start with has been somewhat incoherent. So this move was really not that unsurprising. The other thing I would say is that the game is still afoot. We do not know where this is going to land up. Are we in a phase of negotiation, or is this something more than that? I would say we need to be somewhat patient and see how this gets played out.
Dr. Mahajan, there is also a concern in India that the Americans are being, extremely lenient with the Chinese, and whatever groundwork the Indians and the Americans have done in the last decade is all going down the drain because of Trump, not understanding the situation. India is still a developing country. We have our own sensitivities when it comes to tariffs. Donald Trump, the president, does not understand why India protects its own industries.
I think to a large extent that probably is true. However, that understanding really is more to the negotiators who are actually actively negotiating. The president may not know, but the negotiators certainly do. The other thing I think I do need to say is that while clearly being a developing country, all developing countries protect their industries because they are nascent and they cannot compete with the mature industries from outside. Over a period of time, a country needs to let go of that protection as well. if they don't let go of that protection, the industry will always remain weak. So this is not to justify what the Trump administration is doing. This is just a broader statement about India's red lines, in particular in the context of agriculture. Because if I recall correctly, the 3 farm bills which were passed really were passed to inject competition in that industry. And frankly, I personally thought that the administration could use the tariffs as an excuse to bring about some changes in agriculture, notwithstanding the fact that agriculture is a matter of national security for virtually all countries.
So what do you think is going to happen next? Do you think that this is the style and fashion with which Donald Trump operates, creates a sense of urgency and then he settles down? Is that what we need to brace for?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, I think by this time, and frankly, I think the Indian negotiators are fairly astute. I think they have understood the style of negotiation in this particular administration. And that is why I think they are, as is the American side, diligently prodding on in trying to find a solution. Also, I should say that I think in some ways it's somewhat inappropriate to compare India and China. I think every country has their own dynamics, they have their own pathways, they have their own relationships. And in the context of China, the game is again very much afoot. It's a much more complex. China is a much more complex issue for the United States than India is. And it is going to take much longer to sort that out. That's why you have a 90-day exemption given to them. Also, I think one needs to realistically recognize that China does have more bargaining power than India does, especially when it comes to rare earths, stuff which is needed for electronic manufacturing, etc. So I think comparing India and China perhaps will just cause more heartache than providing anything more relevant.
So, people like John Bolton and Fareed Zakaria have gone on to say that, this move with India is going to backfire. 20 years of diplomacy, 20 years of, a bilateral bonhomie is going to be flushed down because the approach with which Donald Trump is operating is not feasible. There is a sense that Pakistan is gotten on the good books of the Americans and India is somehow being put on the back burner. Do you think that this is something which could harm relationships between these two countries?
Yeah, they could. Indeed, they could. And that is why I think one has to be a little bit careful in trying to figure out what exactly is going on with the India-US relationships. If this relationship, this partnership, is affected at a more fundamental level, an Indian relationship with the United States is very deep, especially when it comes to AI, security, defense procurement, technical transfer of information. So the question India really has to ask is, how is American policy towards these fundamental questions being affected? And if it is not being affected, then this is simply a matter of trade. And we know very well that countries don't have permanent friends, they only have permanent interests. And this is just a part of negotiating ploy. However, if we sense that our strategic fundamental relationship with the United States is being affected, and I have not seen any signs of that yet, then I think something to be concerned about. Otherwise, this is at par. This is a part of the negotiating process. Right. So I am not personally that concerned. I am waiting for clues as to what happens to India-America relationship on those very fundamental questions.
Dr. Majan, there is also a sense that people in India are getting that Donald Trump does not want companies like Apple to manufacture in India. He has already given an ultimatum to Tim Cook. He does not want Indian techies to come and work in the United States. Now, these are some of the foundations on which, this relationship was developed. Do you think that if something like this does transpire, then all bets are off? Donald Trump is only going to strengthen BRICS.
Yeah, it is true that Donald Trump does not want, clearly, India, there was a euphoria in India that this problem of US-China relationships is going to shift supply chains to India. Suddenly, I think India is realizing that India is becoming a major player as well in global economy. And whenever you become a major player in the economy, the big dogs always take notice of you and they want to contain you. So again, this is not surprising. I mean, I think Indians would be carried away if they think that US is going to see them through and become a developed country. That is up to India. The US is going to do what is in the best interest of the US, just like what India does is in the best interest of India. So you're right. Trump had announced earlier that he wants manufacturing back in the United States. Now, whether that's possible or not, that is another matter altogether. Whether one should aspire for that or not, that's another matter altogether. But his policy has been very clear. So it is not that surprising that he will encourage American firms to invest in the United States as opposed to anywhere else, including China or India or Vietnam or Korea.
Fair enough, sir. Dr. Mahajan, appreciate you joining us, sir. Thank you so much for your candid answers. At this point in time, Ravi Karkara, investor and author, is joining us live from New York City. Ravi, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Finally, good to meet you as well. What do you make of this entire hoopla which has been created when it comes to the tariffs that the Americans are imposing on Indian products? Back home, the feeling is that the Americans somehow have fallen out when it comes to Indian interests, because they're obviously favoring countries like Pakistan when it comes to crypto, when it comes to oil reserves. What is your take on this entire episode?
Again, lovely meeting you here, and of course, Dr. Mahajan is always pretty, specific and very critical points he raised. First of all, I just want to say that we cannot say Americans are doing this. I think it's this particular administration which is looking at this. Somebody like me and many others who have spent decades, about 2 decades now, to really look at bringing India and US to come together and look at various opportunities. And I look at green tech, climate tech, agri-tech, food tech, and all these other sectors. And finally, when the administration came in February, we saw that, Prime Minister Modi was here. We saw later on J.D. Vance on 22nd April went down to India. He also made some very interesting, pointers towards, bringing both the economies and the industries together. And of course, the FTA, right? And that was my one question I asked when Honorable Minister Jaishankarji was here in New York. And I asked him in the last week of June, the Newsweek summit, and I said, Excellency, what about the FTA? And he said, Ravi, it's not an FTA, it's a PTA. And I must tell you, when I heard that, my, alarm bells were on, because when you talk about an FTA coming down to an PTA, by that point that the negotiations are not going so well. But of course, as Dr. Mahajan said, many of us are very, very optimistic. And I think what we need to really, in this entire process, we need to really make a distinction between the noise and the signal. I think that's very, very critical. I think just to say that all Americans are doing this, the American business community wants this to happen, absolutely not. I think many business community members, leaders, we've seen, including Tim Cook and others, saying that we need to look at building India as the sunrise opportunity. From various indicators we talked about on X, news so many times, right? I think where this is really is that now this particular administration has somehow, I would say, created this churning of geopolitics, political interest, domestic interest, and of course, looking at the changing global power equations, right? Whether it's G8, G20, BRICS, and NATO, right? And that's the mix we are looking at. And that, of course, Trump makes a very
Ravi,
strong case.
the problem here is it's not only what the American president wants. It is also how he's contextualized things. It's also the language he has used. He's called us the dead economy, which of course, on one hand, he's calling the Prime Minister his dear friend, and then he's calling us a dead economy. We are not a dead economy. The American GDP is at 1.5%, the Indian GDP is 6+%. So obviously, he's a man who does not know what he's talking about.
But remember, early this year, the same man, he talked about India as the rising economy. So you see, in 6 months, economy that he called out and said it's one of the greatest economies. We're working on an FTA with India, extremely excited. So, really going back to the signal point, I think we need to look at this back and forth pressure tactics. It has got a lot to do with the negotiation on dairy and agriculture. We know that, and India hasn't budged. The issue with India buying gas from Russia is not new. India has always made a very strong case. I think Honorable Minister, Prime Minister have made that, and Americans have been okay with it. But I think the fact that we are not budging when it comes to some insanity, I think that's where things are changing, right? So what we're really hoping, I mean, that's, many of us are actually, I would say, perplexed, we are confused. But I also feel that having spoken to many investors, and I was wondering whether the investors will say, we're not going to invest in India. And I also was working with a delegation of Indian investors who are very seriously looking at manufacturing in America. So all that is in a pause right now, but not a pause with saying that, let's be cautious, but not be pessimistic. So for me, of course, there's a lot of concern with some of these very insane statements, but we're looking at August, right? We're looking at 25th. I believe that the trade negotiation and the delegation is still coming to Delhi. Please correct me if anything has changed. I know for a fact that there are these important meetings taking place between Russia and US, then India and with China. So while all this, I would call it a melodrama, it's extremely, I know that in a month's time, he would also turn around and say, well, we need to look at India as an upcoming market. But having said that, I think there is definitely concern, but it hasn't really turned into complete disappointment, because I know that tomorrow there could be a different take by the administration, and we've seen that fluctuation, maybe the word to really see.
But Ravi, last question before we let you go: why is Donald Trump intent on dismantling the very system which has made America the greatest economy in the world?
It's $1 million question, honestly. From his perspective, is actually bringing jobs back, bringing money back to the country, making the dollar strong, looking at the numbers coming out of the Wall Street. But I think the long-term vision is something that we are very, very concerned. And I think there are people who've started to call out. You've seen that. But I think that there'll be a stronger voices coming from the American industry saying that, we need to really iron out the creases so that we can really go back on track and make America, and I firmly believe it, I've been here 20 years. I think these are two economies which need to work together for an AI-powered world, economy. Because India's AI work, US, they need to come together to look at, data security and many, many other dimensions of AI.
Fair enough. Ravi, pleasure speaking to you outside of Twitter. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, lovely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Steve.
Appreciate your time. All right, at this point in time, we are also being joined by Mr. Rajiv Malhotra, who's an author. Rajiv, appreciate you being here with us. What is your analysis of the impact of, the Trump tariff tantrums, if we can call it that?
Analysis is quite negative, because the Indian economy has been booming, doing very well, and these tariffs are coming at the wrong time. Affecting some of the important export industries, and also giving India a competitive disadvantage compared to other Asian countries and other countries with lower tariffs. So the impact is not very good. It's not something India is better off having. How bad it will be remains to be seen, but it's certainly bad, but it could become very bad.
And why is Trump being hostile towards India? Is it just a negotiation tactic, or is it something else?
firstly, I think Indian media and analysts have not understood this situation. Some of them are treating it as, Trump is an immoral person, but that's irrelevant to this problem. Or Trump is wrong, we are right. He's wrong that India is a dead economy. Of course he's wrong. Trump is playing favorites to somebody else. All of that does not change the reality. We have to deal with the reality rather than analyze it and try to win the narrative war. So if you really understand Trump, you have to understand Trump. So Trump's whole, his ideology, the Trump doctrine is basically twofold. One is personal. He has a big ego. He wants to look good and flattered. People suck up to him. When he put tariffs on other countries, the head of state called him. Modi didn't call him. The head of the European Union went to see him in person in Scotland, and they quickly cut a deal and made it 15% or something like that. He's heard from Japan. The head of, he's had conversations with President Xi. So he keeps talking to people, and he likes it. He likes to be able to show off. So he was a show off, and he wants to show off that so-and-so called me and we cut a deal. It's a great deal. So India hasn't done that to him. India is very proud and for good reason. And India doesn't need to suck up to him. And it bothers him. So one is his ego. The second is that he wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States. He doesn't have too many weapons left. One of the big weapons is the American consumer economy is very big, and everybody wants to export to the United States. So he can put tariffs and make the countries compete against each other and try to have them get them to locate their manufacturing in the U.S. And that strategy is working. I mean, the Arabs have committed $1.5 trillion. The Japanese have committed a large amount of money, hundreds of billions. So if you look around all the different FDI into the United States, it is $5 to $8 trillion already that have been committed. So his strategy of bullying people has worked. Now, India is a very interesting situation because India does not want to be bullied. Politically, no prime minister can afford to show that, I've accepted somebody else's pressure. It would not be good for politics. So that's kind of an ego thing. That is what has pissed him off, if I may say so. And these Pakistanis, on the other hand, have sucked up to him. They'll nominate him for a Nobel Prize. So there is all this chemistry issue between Trump and Modi, I think, that has become a factor.
And how do you feel as an Indian, living in America and observing all of this?
I feel very upset as an Indian. I have fought the biases against India for my entire adult life, and stuck my neck out living in the U.S. Right in the lion's den. I've been fighting these battles. So I'm very upset at this. I did not, frankly, expect this. But I think I'll tell you something has happened which the public doesn't know. I don't know. Something went wrong in the chemistry, friendship, so-called friendship between Modi and Trump. This is not the way friends operate. Friends, if they have an issue, they pick up the phone, call, and have a friendly chat and sort it out. But something has gone wrong. There was this Modi-Trump friendship in the first Trump administration, but in the second Trump administration, which is like 7 months long so far, that same bonhomie hasn't been there. The way Modi was invited at the inauguration, the way he's hosting this Munir from Pakistan, but not giving the same respect to Modi. So I think something has happened in their chemistry, and I don't know what it is. But it is not just the merits of the case. There is he's very fragile ego. Trump has a very fragile ego, and something has bothered him so much that he's gone out of his way to do these weird things like calling India a dead economy, putting tariffs on India for buying oil when China buys more oil, and all kind of nonsensical, irrational, inconsistent policies. So I absolutely do not support any of that. Now the question is, what should India do, and what is the likely impact, and how can India control the damage? First of all, India should not try to expand this clash into all Americans. So much on social media and everywhere people are saying all Americans are bad, or all governments have been bad. You're escalating the fight. You're expanding the fight. Americans in general don't necessarily agree with Trump. Certainly, his opponents don't. Even in his own party, because he's a bully and because he can ruin your career, people go along with it. So, if there's a problem with Trump, it should be looked at in a surgical way and not seen that, okay, all Americans are bad, all American politics is bad, all presidents have been bad. That is not the case. There's a lot of voices within the United States right now who are criticizing Trump for all these tariffs, in particular the tariffs on India. But his own cabinet dare not speak like that, and his own party dare not speak like that. So the problem should, firstly, India should locate the problem as a Trump problem rather than United States problem. And as a Trump problem, it should look at it in terms of why is he doing this, what has hurt him, what could we do to counter it. And he's a very kind of a vulnerable to flattery person. And India could have played that game but did not. I guess that's the choice India made.
And what are the opportunities, amidst Donald Trump's tantrums for India? Is there an opportunity, do you feel?
The thing is that when you are friends with somebody, I'm sure in your own life, when you're friends with somebody, you also know that person's character. You know the weaknesses, you know the strengths, you know the tantrums, you know the moods. So if Modi is a friend of Trump, he would know these tantrums. He would be, and the Ministry of External Affairs would be advising him, this is what he's vulnerable to, this is what the other people are doing, this is what the Pakistanis are doing. MEA was taken by surprise. They should not be taken by surprise. So this is also, you have to question whether our side had a proper reading on Trump and then played the cards accordingly, or did we not take him seriously enough that he might do such things, and so we are paying the price of it. Of course, what he's done is unreasonable and wrong. No, there's no doubt about it. But when you are dealing with a very important, in a business, when you're dealing with a very important party, and you do want a deal, and you know that this party has character problems, this party has all kind of problems, and may not even, maybe under the wrong influences, you take that into account when you're dealing with them. Did we properly take into account that this is the Trump, this is Trump's character? For example, it meant a lot to him to convince India that he brokered the peace. It meant a lot. Now, whether it is true or false is besides the point. This is diplomacy. You flatter people, you praise people, doesn't mean that it's always true, but that's how the game is played. Now, as a matter of fact, Trump did send Secretary of State Rubio and the Vice President to try and make peace between the two countries, India and Pakistan. He did say. So he did try that. So you cannot say he did nothing. Now, maybe it was not the reason India declared ceasefire. Maybe the reason was something else. But India could have been a little more polite. India could have said something like this: United States is a great friend of ours, and we have tremendous respect for Donald Trump, and we really appreciate all his efforts to bring about world peace and his good wishes to us to sort it out in an amicable way. Now, that doesn't say we are admitting he made the peace deal, but we are not slapping him in the face, like calling him up and saying, hey, you are a liar. I mean, it's almost like Jaishankar went on and on and on, basically saying, you, Trump, are a liar. Now, you don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. You don't have to admit to something false that he's claiming. But you can be, this is where diplomacy comes in. Diplomatic language can be a little bit vague, and you can work it out. So I think India could have played its cards a little more tactfully if it knew Trump's tantrums and his character, because you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot just to be able to say, I am true, you are false, I'm speaking the truth. Who cares whether you're speaking the truth and the other guy is speaking a lie? The point is, what's the outcome of the transaction? It's a transactional world. So that's how I feel about it.
Do you think that Trump is making a mistake, perhaps, by upsetting the Indian diaspora as well in the US?
He's not concerned about Indian diaspora is a very tiny part of his vote bank. The mistake Trump is making is that all over the world, he's spoiling relationships that the United States has had with many, many countries. with many, many countries by being a bully and by making them accept whatever his terms are and then changing his mind and then calling them names. And then, he is ruining US relations with many, many countries. And he may succeed in getting the economy helped with tariffs and bringing many manufacturing jobs back into the United States. But at what cost? The relationships could be ruined on a long-term basis. And also, he will be dismantling some structures, some international structures, some treaties, some conventions, the WTO, all kind of things. By dismantling these international structures, he's pushing people into China's arms. So, when you look at all the different things that are, all the different stakes out there, United States getting some tariff money and bringing manufacturing jobs into the US is only one part of the American vested interest, and he might win on that. But having good relations with all kinds of countries is also very important, and having structures, multilateral structures, treaties honored, which United States put together. US is the country that after World War II put the entire world order together, and Trump is dismantling the world order. He's dismantling free trade, globalization, all of that stuff, which is what has helped America. So I think the mistake he's making is not, India specific. He's making some strategic errors, while I also appreciate some good things he's done. Closing the southern border with Mexico to prevent illegal aliens and throwing the illegal aliens out is a good thing. Every American supports that. Going after Harvard's woke, ultra left-wing, policies, anti-Semitism, going after them, punishing them is a good thing. So there are many good things he's doing. But I think as far as this economic war with the rest of the world, arbitrarily, you see, what he could have done is he could have published a consistent set of rules. He could have said countries that are of this character, of this level of trade deficit, the tariff will be so much. If the trade deficit is that much, the tariff will be that much. He could come up with an algorithm. He could come up with rules. He could come up with a policy statement and then be consistent. Not keep changing his mind, saying, okay, I don't like this guy, I'll give him more tariff. This guy is my friend, he complimented me, praised me, hugged me, so I'll give him less tariff. That is very immature and amateurish. Tariffs could have been done in a very professional way, and should have been done in a very professional way. The principle of using tariffs is a good idea, but they have to be used consistently and very intelligently and in a very transparent way, which is not how Trump did it.
All right, last question before we let you go. What do you see as the long-term impact of this Trump offensive, if we can call it that?
Indian economy will suffer for sure. But I do not think India should succumb to the demand that we should stop buying oil from Russia. Russia is the one consistent ally we've had. A lot of our military supplies depend on Russia. And so I don't think we should acquiesce. One thing I would suggest is this, and it's probably not a popular suggestion because people think that, the government and MEA know what everything is best for us. But I tell you, we should have had a different kind of ambassador in Washington. We should have had somebody more like an industrialist or a military leader, people who are very westernized, Indians who are very westernized, who've done deals with the Western world, who are transactional oriented, who are very kind of have a certain body language and a certain chemistry in dealing with Westerners. That would have done very well. Trump's cabinet is filled with many industrialists, people from the business industry sector. And they talk a certain language. Businessmen talk a certain language. India's entire MEA is bureaucrats. The Sarkari Babu type irritates Trump. He's against his own federal government. He says, I'm draining the swamp in Washington. He's kicking people out right and left, bringing in people from the corporate sector. See, he hates this bureaucratic mindset and the way they talk and the way they are and that sort of thing. Just bothers the hell out of him. India should have India should have read his mind better and picked a different kind of ambassador. One of the top Indian industrialists could have been sent as India's ambassador and probably done well. That's just my speculation.
All right, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Well, President Trump's deadline to Russia expired yesterday, and instead of further disparaging statements, Trump surprised the world by announcing an in-person meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders are set to meet in the American state of Alaska, which has historic significance for American-Russian ties, having been purchased by the USA from Russia in 1867, before finally becoming a full state in the United States of America in 1959. While the exact location for the meeting is yet to be revealed, all eyes are now firmly on the largest American state as the world waits for the outcome of these crucial talks. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the program is Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat, Dr. Sergei Dvoryanov, President of IDC Russia and Director WHD International Board, Vice President of the BCMF. He's joining us all the way from Moscow. And last but not the least, Major General Sanjay Mesno, Senior Defense Expert, also with us on the program. Ambassador Mukherjee, I will begin with you. Well, anything can happen when you talk about Trump, when you think about Trump, when you debate about Trump. You know, we've been talking about Trump coming back into power and becoming a friend to India, but the exact opposite has happened here. What is likely to change if Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump get off on the right note? World economies could be salvaged. You know, this tariff tantrum could be negated. What do you think, ma'am, is on the radar?
There are 2 or 3 very important indications that have come over the last 3 days. The first was when Vice President Vance had met his counterparts and national security advisors, etc. of the EU, and then he said that it would be a peace agreement which would not please either side and which would not displease either side either, which reminded me of what Kissinger had written years ago when I was in university, when he had said that a peace agreement which lasts is one that displeases both, but does not displease both to the extent that they want to get out of the peace agreement, which is the comparison Kissinger did between the Congress of Vienna and the Treaty of Arsenal. After that, we had the indication from President Trump that this would be a meeting one-to-one with Vladimir Putin, which has not pleased some of the anti-Russian EU leaders who think, which is laughable, that Putin is not the equivalent of Trump. I would say it's the other way around, but that's my personal opinion. And then he said that both sides would have to give up territory. And this meeting would be followed by another meeting between President Putin and Zelensky, where he may be there or he may not be there. He may be in the background. In other words, I would figure out that being the kind of transactional person he is, he has understood that he has backed himself with regard to Russian oil, etc., into a corner. Because those whom he tried to bully, including India, have not been bullied. They have not caved in, which is not what he imagined, since he had successfully bullied both Japan and the European Union. Now he finds that if first his friend Putin, then his enemy Putin, now again his friend Putin, if he can do a deal with him with regard to territory, it would be, according to me, he would suggest freezing like the line of actual control, in which case Russia may have to give up a small little bit of territory which it has not yet been able to get back from the Ukrainians, but Russia would get the rest, which is exactly what it wants, because its strategic interests, long-term core interests, would be safeguarded, and these territories have always been part of Russia, part of Russia's literature, history, culture, and civilization. If it works out, then he would have another meeting where Zelensky would be present, where he would be perhaps an outsider in the next room, waiting for the two of them to agree or disagree and then decide whether to step in or not. This would be the scenario. This is a classical scenario. In it actually demonstrates that when President Trump wants, he knows exactly how to handle it. When he goes too far, like he did with his bullying with regard to Russian oil, as far as India was concerned, etc., then he understands very quickly where he's gone too far and he tries to come back. Like, for instance, perhaps he does not want the India-US strategic partnership, carefully built up over more than 14 years, first with Dr. Manmohan Singh, then with Prime Minister Modi. Perhaps he really doesn't want to demolish it completely, because demolishing it completely is actually pushing India completely into the arms of Russia and China. Is that what he wants? Because in any case, we would refuse to give up our Russian connection. This is a historic connection. We would never give it up. And we will never ever be bullied in public. So I think that this meeting, Vineet, is extremely interesting because of these signals which are coming, which would appear to me that there is now an acceptance that Russia has won the war and it is time to bring it to an end so that certain things which were not natural, including the bullying of countries like India who are buying Russian defense imports and oil, will stop. And a certain geopolitical balance will be restored, which had been completely upended over the last 6 weeks and which has given rise, whether Trump accepts it or not, to huge amount of anti-Americanism all over India, which was not there 3 months ago. And he solely is responsible for the anti-Americanism across India. When you say that why doesn't the government do a deal? The government cannot do a deal because 1.4 billion Indians will not allow the government to cave in to Trump. It's as simple as that. If he doesn't understand that, then he should listen perhaps to his charge d'affaires here in Delhi, who would tell him that. So it's time for Trump to do a deal. He needs to do a deal with Putin, who has won the war. The sooner he accepts that Putin has won the war, the better it is for Trump. Maybe then, Vineet, he can ask Putin to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Vineet.
Good points there, ma'am. Dr. Sergey, while Donald Trump is going to be meeting Vladimir Putin, he's always said that he likes Putin, he has certain influence on him, but yet he's not been able to shake off the war that has been going on between Russia and Ukraine, and he's also trying to project to the world that India is fueling this war by buying Russian oil. In India, there has never been an ill will or any animosity towards Russia. We have considered Russia as one of our dear friends. We have always bought defense products and ammunition and equipment from you. What do you think Donald Trump is trying to do at this point in time? Do you think there is a sense that he's trying to change the world order?
Namaste, good evening. Thank you for invitation for discussion. First of all, I would like to start. What is the difference between Russian dream and American dream? American dream is a success with any price. Russian dream based on the vision, happiness for all nations. It's not a small or big nations. Actually, all nations are equal. And even if you look to the Russian word love, любовь, this is an abbreviation. Each letter of this word meaning, if you translate, that peoples who can understand and deeply realized love. That is the meaning of that is the core actually of our civilization. Right now, come to the point. Of course, Alaska is a very famous place because it was a trade deal between Russia and America before, during our kingdom. And that is a favorite word of Donald Trump, deal. Right now, he wants to complete this deal. Because, frankly speaking, Donald Trump, he is a billionaire, he is a businessman, entrepreneur, and he achieved whatever can achieve. But still in his mind, in his mindset is this main reference is a success. more success, more. And I can realize that he wants to be like a monument in the history, in the modern history, in the future, that he achieved everything, but he not received a Nobel Prize. And he did a lot of very successful deals between Iran and Israel, between India and Pakistan. Everything he achieved, not only a Russian-Ukrainian conflict. That's why his motivation come to the deal, especially this place was chosen because it was a very successful deal for America. Alaska, when Russian king actually deliver this territory, this land to America, it was very small price. After deal, they recovered gold in Alaska. It's a very famous historical fact. It was a booming. Again, it was like we can tell the creation of the American dream. Today you are nobody. Tomorrow you'll found some gold deposit and you'll become success. I can see right now that we have a historical chance of real dialogue between West and East. We have this chance, and I'm a believer. And of course, American civilization also based on the Christian beliefs or the Christian background. Famous American philosopher William James, in his book The Will to Believe, explained that God is not a small trader; he is a big trader. Again, he used this word, trading and deal. That is in American blood. And right now we can see that Donald Trump, he is, for me, quite independent politician. Of course, he has a lot of advisors, a lot of staff who can advise to him and guide him. But finally, in his heart, he has his own idea and his dream. And we can see that it can be like dialogue between two dreams, American dream and Russian dream, real dialogue. And during this dialogue, it's not question of only of the economical level. It's a question of the future of civilization. When these two very powerful leaders, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, together will sit on the round table in the very historical place, Alaska, they can really, with open hearts, to discuss if they really have some responsibility for the future generations, if they are really peacemakers, if they are really want to achieve something according to the divine will, the God's will, it will be real, the new era. We can tell we can mark it golden era of humanity.
You're absolutely right, sir. You're absolutely right. Completely agree with you. General Mesto, while these two individuals, they will be meeting, and the potential of this meeting is unlimited. Do you agree, sir?
Absolutely. The potential of this meeting is unlimited, and the strategic outcome of this meeting is dependent on certain ground factors. Firstly, there are three important players, and the most important player in this is President Putin and President Trump. They are the two most important players. And of course, the other player, which is at a relegation background as on date, is President Zelensky. The major outcome is dependent on the first two personalities, that is President Trump and President Putin. Now let us analyze the ground realities as on date. Firstly, for President Putin, the ground realities are the basic advantage or the major advantage he has is that he has in possession 20% of the Ukrainian territory. The second thing is, what are his weaknesses? His weaknesses or vulnerabilities, I would put it, is Kaliningrad, which of course is surrounded by Lithuania and Poland, and of course also on the other side by the Baltic Sea. The other vulnerability or the strategic outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war has been that Finland and Sweden has joined NATO. And President Putin also perceives a threat that NATO has been, very active in Europe, and also now with the latest Azerbaijan and Armenia peace talks, which has been now more than 4 decades peace talks, which President Trump has been successful, it gives him also inroads northwards towards Russia and southwards towards Iran. So this has been a strategic outcome of Azerbaijan-Armenia peace talks. Now coming on to the Zelensky side. Zelensky is today the biggest vulnerability or the weakness is he has lost 20% of territory, except he has gained some minor territory in Kursk. But he has no wherewithal. I repeat, no wherewithal, no military wherewithal, no power, no strength, even with the European support or maybe even with the American support, to regain this 20% territory. And therefore, this is the most important turning point, this territory. Coming on to non-contact warfare from the Russian side and from the Ukrainian side, I think I would say it is more or less of a status quo. Yes, to some extent, advantages more with Russia. They have got better drones and better missiles. But even I think Ukraine has been quite successful in targeting Moscow, and you have also seen they have targeted their bombers which were deployed way back, way in depth in the Russian territory. So basic thing is this 20% territory, which is the point of contention. Now let's come on to President Trump. President Trump, his aim is very, very clear. He wants to end this war. And this was his, he had announced even during his election campaign. And if he can achieve this, he will go down in history as one of the presidents who has been a man of action and has been able to stop this war. So therefore, what was his strategy? His strategy was first to, tighten Zelensky. You are aware what happened in White House. And of course, thereafter he withdrew some aid and forced him. And thereafter Zelensky did relent. And they have signed this treaty of, for the mineral deals. Now coming on to President President Trump. As with Russia, he has tried everything. Steve Witkoff and, talks in Saudi Arabia and talks in Istanbul. Nothing much has happened. So therefore, he also tried this economic sanctions, and he had given this 10 days deadline which just expired on August 8th. And suddenly he came up with this option of Alaska peace talks. Now what is his intent? Intent is he has given an advantage to Putin to sit down and now resolve this issue once and for all. And what would be discussed between the two is swapping of territory. And what I perceive, this is my perception, that eastern Ukraine, basically comprising the Donbass area of Luhansk and Donetsk, this perhaps will be agreed upon mutually that this can be retained by Russia. Crimea will be recognized by United States, and maybe Zaporizhia and of course Kherson, that may pass on to the hands of Ukraine. Possibility exists. Now, if President Putin does not relent, let me tell you, this is a chance he'll give him. Then President President Trump will take a U-turn or a total different swing in a pendulum. Right now he's on to the left, he will go right. Thereafter, I think he will give full support to Ukraine, full support to Europe Union or the NATO, and thereafter I think he will arm Ukrainians, and therefore the non-contact warfare will continue. On ground today, I think
Fair enough, sir.
Russia does not have the wherewithal in terms of troops to keep expanding and capturing more territory. So it's going to be a long-drawn war both for Russia and for Ukraine. Does
Fair
it
enough,
does it augur well for Russia and Ukraine? The answer is no. So therefore, I'm quite optimistic that this time in this talk, some kind of negotiation on territory of swapping will be done. And once that is decided, in the next talks in Russia, perhaps maybe in Vladivostok or wherever it is, I feel some kind of a give and take is the possibility. And if that does not
Fair
happen,
enough, sir. We have run out of time, but appreciate all our guests who joined us and weighed in for this important meeting between these two world leaders. Some breaking news to talk about now. Well, the Indian government has made a big announcement for overseas citizens of India cardholders. OCI cards will be cancelled if the person has been sentenced to imprisonment of less than 2 years or charge sheeted for an offence with imprisonment for up to 7 years or more, is what we are learning. Manohar Kesri, my colleague, is joining us on the broadcast to give us more insights into this. मनोहर, अगर आप मेरी आवाज़ सुन पा रहे हैं?
बिल्कुल, आपकी आवाज़ आ रही है।
OCI को लेकर सरकार का एक बड़ा निर्देश।
देखिए, बिल्कुल केंद्रीय गृह मंत्रालय की ओर से एक बड़ा फैसला किया गया है। बजट नोटिफिकेशन में एक बात की जानकारी दी गई है कि कोई भी ओवरसीज सिटीजनशिप भारत के अगर रहते हैं तो अगर वो 2 साल से कम 2 साल तक अगर वो जेल की सजा उनको मिल गई हो या फिर 7 साल से कम किसी भी आपराधिक केस में चार्जशीट में उनका नाम हो तो उनका OCI कैंसिल हो जाएगा। कहने का मतलब ये है कि भारत सरकार 26 जनवरी 1950 से तो वैसे ही लोगों को OCI 2005 से इसकी मुहैया कराते आ रही है, लेकिन अब ऐसा नहीं होगा। इसके खिलाफ जो एक्शन लिया जाएगा, उनकी जो पात्रता है वो रद्द कर दी जाएगी, क्योंकि अगर हम व्यूअर्स को बताएं कि OCI उन्हीं लोगों को दिया जाता था जिनकी पात्रता जो एलिजिबल होते थे 26 जनवरी 1950 से भारत के नागरिक हैं या उस वक्त तक।
इस जानकारी के लिए, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। वी टेक अ शॉर्ट ब्रेक नाउ, विल बी बैक।
Co-powered by